Hello. Oh, camera's frozen again. Oh, interesting. I really am not sure why it does this. Oh, God. It wasn't doing this before. When before. It was fine before. So listen, I'm here. I'll speak to you as I try to figure out what the hecky heck is going on with mine camera. Hello, camera. Can you please explain why you are not working? Hello. No? Is that it? This is what I want? Okay, yes, we're back. Okay. And we're here also. Okay, great. Perfect. We did it. Hi. Hi, everybody. How you doing? It's after Christmas now. Oh, I didn't reset my goal, my donation goal for the stream. I'm so sorry. So today we're just going to do a run-of-the-mill politics stream. We've got stuff to talk about with regards to Gaza. We've got, trans bills, trans rights stuff, the descent into fascism, police doing questionable things. We've got two stories about police doing questionable things today. So it's going to be that kind of day today. But yeah, hi, it's good to see you. I'm glad that I've got the stream working so you all can hear me. Everything is fine. Wow. 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 Okay. Anyway, so yeah, hopefully you all had a really good Christmas. I feel like my Christmas was, honestly, pretty effing good. Like, I feel like, the winter is tough and I'm making a deliberate effort to have a good time this winter. So yeah, we're going to be chilling for a little while at the beginning of the show today, as per usual. So tuck in, get ready to talk about kind of whatever. I think I'm cursed because of climate change to now have year-round allergies. It hasn't really sufficiently frozen in Kansas. And so I'm like, why is it December and my throat hurts? And I'm not like sick, obviously. I don't go anywhere to get sick. So this is just my life now. I just have like, when you swallow and your ears pop, that's just kind of like constant right now. Oh, I'm gonna have to cave and start taking allergy meds during the winter. It's terrible. So let me make sure my chats are all ready. Let me see. Make sure I can see everybody. We've got Drew A. Happy day after Boxing Day. True. Yes. What's up, Anthony? There's Jeller Zeller. Hello. Yeah. No worries if you're only here for a couple minutes of the stream. We appreciate you hanging out anyway. Luxander jump scare. Oops. Was that from last time? Oh, no, no, no. Technical skills just means you're a real leftist. True, that is from today. Hmm. Just gotta, keep the fluids going. There's good news also. Do we have any good news today? I haven't really noticed any good news today. So, might be one of those kind of days. What's up, Allison? How are you people doing? I am doing so great. Anthony says I'm growing my hair out. I'm growing my hair out too, which is part of why I wear the beanie a lot of the time during stream. Like, I first of all, I've started parting my hair this way almost exclusively because I do still have like some hair loss issue happening right here from having been like pulling on my hair so much before. But also, I'm growing out my hair in the back, and also consequently that means a little bit on the side right here, because like previously this kind of, was a circle shape. But now I need it to be like more straight back, which means that also, along this tiny little edge here, my hair is all a strange length. So yeah, I kind of look like a duber. I think when it's like an inch or two longer in the back, I'm gonna go ahead and like bleach it and then dye it like orange or something cool like that. It's gonna be fun. This is, so I have not figured out the right products for it, but this is my hair trying to do its natural wave, which I think is fun. Like I think that I need to acquire some special shampoo and maybe a different gel, but like this is, my hair is definitely trying to do a natural wave pattern, which is exciting. Fun times. Anyway, let's put the hat back on. Put all that away. Just put that away. No, there we go. There we go. Just put it away. Okay. Hi. I just took my Adderall. I'll let you know when it hits. Yeah. I took Ritalin about 4 hours ago, which means it's gonna wear off about 2 hours into the show. Yes. I've been having a hair crisis. What the fuck do you do when you don't know what to do with your hair? I mean, I think that the answer is to wear a hat. You know? I think that that's just, that's what you have to do. Making mince pies? Oh my goodness. I don't think I've ever had a proper mince pie. January 8th, Allison says I'm going under the knife. High five, I assume? I assume you're doing it for trans-related reasons because you're here and that's your icon. It's a little trans symbol. Yeah, wear a hat. Yes. So I'm hoping that that's a good surgery and that everything goes well. Is good news even real, or are we just so used to bad news that we are excited for less bad news? Right. You know, when we had one recently about the 21 states attorneys general signed and like onboarded this amicus brief, and the amicus brief was like asking the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to affirm trans people's right to use the bathroom. And it's like, that feels good that 21 states out of, you know, a potential 50 states all signed this amicus brief. And so it's like, okay, cool, there are people on our side. But if you zoom out ever so slightly, the context of that action is there are lawsuits and laws passing across the country trying to restrict access to bathrooms and other public spaces. So, you know, it's like a good thing within the context of an overall much worse thing. So that is a really interesting point, Mama. The good news is that I have the energy to bake and it makes me happy. Oh my God. I probably need to like wait a couple of minutes. But the reason actually why the title of this stream today is Let's Bake This Bread, instead of, usually I'll pick one of my stories for the day that I plan on covering and I'll just throw that in the stream title because that tends to be very catchy. And I might even change the stream title in order to make it more catchy in that way. But, you know, I'm kind of curious to see if we can get more people who are less, you know, interested in like, oh yeah, let's go do this one particular political thing super hardcore. But I actually did bake bread today. And I have a stand mixer, so that makes it like significantly easier. But I made bread. And it only literally came out of the oven like 5 minutes before stream started. And then I let it sit on the counter in its baking tin for 10 minutes. And so literally like moments before I came back over here and switched the stream on, I dumped the bread out of the container and put it on the wire rack to dry and like cool off or whatever. So yeah, stand mixer. I cheated. I also learned why the stand mixer that I bought at the thrift store was at the thrift store. And the answer is that the hook is super weird. Yeah, I am the bread tuber. No. It's not like I'll become the bread tuber. I am the bread tuber. You just wait until in a few years when I have the space and like the resources to be growing my own wheat, because I'm gonna be full on like the biggest bread tuber. I'm out there growing my own wheat. I'm milling it myself, and then I make my own bread. But yeah, I'm trying to see if we can buy store-bought bread less. And, you know, so I made enough dough for 2 loaves, 2 relatively small loaves, basically. And the other one I went ahead and put in the freezer so that it can be, you know, useful later, rather than baking 2 of them and then trying to go through 2 loaves of bread or dealing with bread in the refrigerator. I just froze the dough. And so I'll pull it out when I'm ready for it, like next week, and it'll do its second prove after I pull it out of the freezer, and then I'll bake it. It'll be delicious. Did you ever look into the drama with Xander Hall and Keffels? No, not really. Like, I saw that Xan was about to stream, like he tweeted or something that he was going to stream yesterday, and then I don't think he ended up doing it. Listen. Delicious. I also just made myself my first coffee of the day. That's what happens when you drink decaf, because I don't get caffeine headaches. So sometimes you just forget until the afternoon that, you enjoy a nice warm cup of coffee. So, yes. I got a little bit of, I got some donations and I also got some Christmas money. So I think that soon I'm going to go ahead and get myself my own branded mug, which I'm excited about. It's going to be good. Speaking of this. Okay. Stream goal, $100. I will... Oh, no, that's wrong. I will show you my appreciation if we get to $100 in donos today, which I don't necessarily expect because everybody just spent a bunch of money on Christmas. I know I just spent a bunch of money on Christmas, money that I probably should not have spent on Christmas, but it was beautiful. Sometimes you just gotta invest in those moments. Like on Christmas Day itself, we basically like chilled in the living room and watched movies all day. And we were like eating on all of our little snacks that we got in our stockings. I think that that's kind of the point of stockings for me. And we did stockings for the first time, like in a really, really long time. And like, that's the point of them, is to have a bunch of little snacks. Sometimes little toys. I'm not as into little toys because I feel like the little toys that you could get in a stocking are, not going to necessarily have a super high value long term. But it can be fun for the day at the very minimum. But yeah, like snacks, like candy, various little tiny things. And we got some Lego and we were putting together Lego. We made it through a big chunk of the rest of like the Marvel movies because we're sort of doing a watch through, and it's been ongoing for a long time. When we're finally kind of starting to pick up some speed, we watched Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, and then we switched into Marvel mode and we watched, what did we start with? Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a fun romp, and then it was like Captain America, Winter Soldier, and then Age of Ultron, I think. No. I can't remember the exact order. No. We did not watch Captain America Winter Soldier yesterday. It was like Ultron and, not yesterday, on Christmas. And then Ant-Man, and like kind of boring movies, I'm gonna be honest with you. Age of Ultron and Ant-Man, both kind of boring movies. I still haven't seen the third Guardians of the Galaxy. We'll get there eventually. Eventually I'll get there. I'm gonna finally have enough money to pay my car insurance with my Christmas money. I know how that feels, Christy. I got Christmas money and I'm mostly like, cool, I get to pay off some of my credit cards. Like, ugh. I had to shell out $500 at the garage for my car, maintenance, and had to replace an electronic key. The key alone cost $300. Also driving home, a gravel hit my windshield. Oh my god. That's fucking annoying. I heard that it's Age of Voltron. No, sorry, I'm not enunciating very well. Age of Ultron, not a very fun movie. A couple of the Avengers movies seem to be made by drunk children. They're just really boring sometimes. But Guardians of the Galaxy was very good. And what is next after Ant-Man? That's the end of Phase 3. And then you start on Phase 4. If Gayfesh was here, we would have the answers. But unfortunately, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon there. And Gayfesh is nowhere to be found. But Ant-Man 1 and 2 are heist movies. They're so different from all the other Marvel films. Yeah, I did kind of like in Ant-Man how it was a little bit more personal. Sorry, I know I said that it's a politics stream. We kind of always shoot the shit for the first hour, so come back at 5 if you don't want to listen to me talk about Marvel movies and other shit like that. Like, we'll get around to the news in a while. Yeah, Ant-Man felt a little bit more human and relatable than, a lot of the other, because there's like a family element to it and like a weird broken family element to it as well. I either liked Ant-Man or Paul Rudd. It's like Paul Rudd is in it, but he does not get to be as fun as I know he can be. And that's, I think, part of what just makes it less fun. Yeah, Gayfesh is in the Colorado time zone. Yes, everybody with their Ant-Man theories. It would have been much faster to kill Thanos. We all know. I can't deal with Ant-Man because the powers don't make sense. They are pretty inconsistent about the way that it says it's supposed to work and then the way that it actually works. Coffee. Anyhow, Ant-Man 3 sounds like it sucks. I forgot that there was an Ant-Man 3. The way that it works is, wow, that's cool, and they should not have tried to explain it with science. This is kind of the thing. I think that these movies believe, the makers of the movies believe that a modern audience requires some kind of technological explanation for stuff. But then, they break the rules that they've established, and so it just doesn't feel fun in that way. It would be more fun if it was kind of like a little bit more mysterious, They keep trying to do hard magic systems, basically, but then a bunch of soft magic bullshit happens, and it's just not working. What's up, Uncomfy? Yeah, we're gonna be going for probably like a grand total of 4 hours today. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter, depending on how things goes. It's only a small problem because here's one of my major nitpicks about Ant-Man movies is that I think that a lot of the ants, like, statistically are more likely to be female, and also if you know what ants are supposed to look like, then they look female also, but then they give them a bunch of boy ant names, and it really bugs me. Like, more than it should. Probably way more than it should. I wish they took the approach of the Ant-Man shrinks his little tiny body despite the lack of scientific agreement, a la the B-movie intro. It would be nice. Yeah, it bugs me. Oh, goodness. Why are we talking about public transit? What? Delicious. So, yeah. Does anybody have any plans for New Year? I'm assuming that we are gonna, like, chill and probably have some whiskey and just enjoy hanging out. I don't really know that we have a plan. We did stay up pretty late on Christmas, so I imagine that we are going to be able to stay up at least until midnight on New Year's. I I guess I am supposed to stream on New Year's Eve. I streamed on Christmas Eve, so I guess I don't really see any particular reason not to stream on New Year's Eve, especially since we stream so early in the day that day. So I guess part of my plan is to work. So I'm gonna work during the day on New Year's Eve, and then I'm gonna chill with my partner and enjoy the evening. I have the weekend off, but I'm working New Year's Day, getting my holiday out of the way for the next year. Yeah, good going. Drew says, I'm working on a business plan. I'm starting my own practice to help people navigate late-stage capitalism. Interesting. So are you like a financial advisor? I have been watching a lot of homestead videos and learning about gardening. That's how I plan to survive late-stage capitalism. Yeah, I'm a private transit, not a public transit. Do not know what CFP is. But yes, that sounds fun. I Certified financial planner. Okay, so so you like help people come up with a budget plan thing over the next like 5 years. You're like, here's what you need to do in the next couple of years in order to have good credit or buy a house or whatever it is that your plan is. I see those. Do you guys see those on Facebook or whatever? Like when you're scrolling just the timeline, I'll see videos that's a dude. He's like at a table with a microphone, but they're clearly like taking a phone call. It almost seems like he's in an auditorium or something. Like there are people witnessing this phone call, and it's usually some person, asking for financial advice. And I'm like, how do you have $10,000 in savings? You know what I mean? Like, oh man, it's wild to me. I don't know that. It's like, yeah, it's weird. Poor people could really use access to financial planning, but also it's like, is there any amount of financial planning that can get you out of your situation of poverty? And also, like, financial planner, that person has expertise and probably costs some money to go see. So it's like, in order to save money long term, you have to spend money you don't have, which obviously to a lot of poor people is going to sound like a major scam. Poor people who are aware of things like payday loans, for example. My GF was here over Christmas and finally solved a riddle of my life. Some exes have told me I snore and others said I didn't. Turns out I snore only when I'm on my left side. The DBH, that leaves me with more questions. I don't know. You probably have a deviated septum. And so, like, there's something about when you're laying on your left side, maybe, like, that's causing the drainage in your face to drain onto the left side, but maybe you have an obstruction, like, on your right side. So now you have an obstruction on both sides because of where the fluid is in your face. That could be why. I don't really know. Saving money is hard when you're poor. I know. I know. I plan to do some free work. That's cool, like some pro bono work. That would be really cool. I wonder if it's going to make a difference for some people. I hope it does. I look forward to your success in the world. Yeah, I really hope that we have the resources in the next 3 years to, like, buy a house or land. I don't know. It's going to require some good planning. I can't save money. I have to spend it on drugs. True. Medication is expensive. We've definitely had, like, some stuff going on this year medically as well. Like, I got more prescriptions. I switched, like, from one prescription to a different kind, and that one costs more money, Can't save money. I have to spend it on girlfriend. I hope that girlfriend wants you to spend money, okay? I am hoping that as the new year kicks in, people get their tax refunds back and everything, that I will have more money to spend on, not girlfriend, but similar vibes. Ooh, Allison will soon be working at an animal shelter. That is going to be good stuff. I wish you good luck. I know that that's going to be hard work, but it's very gratifying. And it can be quite fulfilling. I've considered it, and then I realized that I'm not cut out for it. Okay, girlfriend has no income, so I'm supporting both of us. Okay, fair enough. Spending money on GF so she has a place to live, Christmas with my family is all in onesies with dinner on laps, watching Barbie movies and painting Warhammer at the table after the entire family chips in to cook. That's fun. I didn't end up making, like, a special Christmas dinner, but I just made, like, a dinner, and it was okay. It was fine. I never get a tax refund. I always owe. Self-employed. I am still paying off the credit card that I used last year to pay my taxes, which was like $2,000 worth of taxes. And I am gonna owe again next year probably. I don't know, hopefully less, because frankly, I think I made less money this past year, so I'll owe less. Hopefully, I don't know, we'll see. Mutual aid is a great use of spending in late stage capitalism. Well, yeah, like a great return on investment, you mean, because of the mutuality that it provides? I'm just constantly fantasizing about like my little farm life that I plan to start. Technically speaking, if I'm hoping to like buy some land in the next 3 years, then I could hypothetically buy like plants now, for example, that I plan on keeping permanently longer term. Like I could hypothetically get a blackberry bush now and just have it be an indoor plant and keep it tidy and small. And then when I eventually own my land, I could plant that and be like, okay, so this homesteading project is something that started much earlier. But yeah, look for that kind of content on my second channel, by the way. During the streams, obviously, we're going to talk about politics and climate change and whatever I'm interested in, and some of the, like, whatever I'm interested in stuff, I want to keep doing on stream, but I'm going to start, when it comes to uploading, I'll put those things on, like, a second channel, which I'm in the process of kind of setting up. You gotta pay a lot of money to be a great artist, it's true. Honestly, Christmas to me is my time to be super grateful for a family that is super queer and loving of each other. Having my brother-in-law actively helping to remind people that I use they-them pronouns when the occasional accidental misgendering happens was super wholesome. Yes! That's really exciting to hear. Because I know, the holidays can be such a tricky time because, yeah, you don't necessarily have a guarantee that people are going to use your correct pronouns. Maybe you're not out. Even if you are out, there might be still some kind of problem with it. And, it sucks to acknowledge that it's rare, but, like, we should acknowledge that it's good still, even though it's rare, when we do have accepting families or, even a found queer family that's supportive. Tango the Mango, hey! Finally managed to catch a stream. Welcome. Welcome. We stream on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Central for about usually 4 hours. And then on Sundays at noon. And that's Central Time. Central Time. Noon on Sundays. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. Good to have you here. If you're on the YouTube chat, by the way, we have my website chat. There's a link in the description. I don't dual stream to Twitch. I'm only on the website. Only on the YouTube. If you ever want ideas for your homestead, I have a degree in culinary arts and sustainable food systems. Honestly, Padfoot Sam, like, what I probably need to do is just right now while I'm thinking about it, start a channel in the Discord about like homesteading and farming and sustainability. I've tried the website, but my VPN doesn't like it. That's fair. It's possible that we have some kind of anti-VPN measures built in because people use VPNs to dodge the IP bans. And that obviously is a vulnerability to abusive practices, unfortunately. Kitties. Okay. Yeah, so I should just create a place in the Discord where we can post these links. I'll post it here for now. Okay, I've made a channel called Homesteading, and it is in the Discord server. So, if any of you have, like, links, like, PDFs, resources, I think that my thing that I need to do is not only do I need to have an idea for, like, the first 5 years of what you would do if you owned land, but I need, like, the first 1 year of what you would do. So I'm subscribing to different YouTube channels. I'm, like, saving info. I'm, like, writing notes down and trying to get some just good ideas in my mind of what are some of the possibilities. Because obviously, I don't have, like, a patch of land in mind that I'm going to go look at. Typical. You're the one who made the new emoji, the pussy emoji. Can you please direct message that to me in Discord because I don't want to try to go find it in the um yeah. My sis calls you a dude but in a gender neutral way. I am a dude. It's true. Um yes, thank you. So you don't know what kind of situation it's going to be before you have the land. So it's like, okay, I can imagine different ways of creating water sustainability, but it's going to depend on the topography. I can imagine different ways of setting up like the greenhouse or the this area or the that, like where are the animals going to go? Like I can envision it in 100 different ways. And it's good to have that idea in your head ahead of time of what kind of stuff you want to do. But you know, you're going to get there and you're going to find out that there's like erosion in uncomfortable places, or you're going to find out that your soil is really seriously needing a lot of work. It's hard to, you know, you're not going to know. Water, roof, sustainable food sources, firsties. Yeah. And yeah, that's the other question. Are you going to buy land and build a house? Are you going to buy land that has a house and like work on improving it? Do you need to improve it? Like, what are you able to get in the place where you're at looking? There's so many details. And so you can't be married to any one particular plan. You know, you can't go, oh yeah, the first year I'm going to get solar panels installed, because maybe you get there and actually your roof needs to be replaced. It's like, okay, well, shit. And then maybe you get into repairing some of the stuff in that house and you realize, you know, it might just be better. We might just be better off if we go ahead and like build a new house. We can live in this house while we're building the other house, but there's so many issues here that we might as well just, for the amount of money you'd spend, you might as well just build a new fucking structure. Like, you don't know what's gonna happen. Get a 3D printer. Yeah, let me get one of those, like, 3D printing mechanisms that extrudes concrete. Just concrete. Excuse me. I want to grow huckleberry bushes and coconut trees in Michigan, but I don't have enough to buy land, let alone a house. Renting isn't getting cheaper either. Right. You can, hypothetically, grow certain things in a pot. Maybe even a real big pot. Outside on a balcony or something, if you have a balcony. I've seen renters put in a lot of beautiful plants into the ground while they are at a rental, and then when they move out, they just dig everything up. There's already like a whole my first 30 days off grid thing I've seen from Acorn Land Labs. This is so exciting. Jira, here's my issue. What I have been seeing in the couple of days that I've been kind of looking at the YouTube scene on this is it seems really popular right now to talk about people's homesteads that have started since the pandemic began. It's ongoing, to be clear. But since the pandemic began, there are these things. And okay, I'm like, okay, great. I'm so glad that you're able to make this work for the first couple of years. I want to see successful homestead operations that have been going for a minimum of 8 years, because I want to see in action things that are, you know, it is really impressive if somebody can turn their entire backyard in the space of 15 months into a fully productive food garden. You know, that's incredible and it's amazing. But my question is, yeah, like, are you doing a good job of maintaining the soil? Are you doing a good job of, like, diversifying what grows there? And, yeah, like, is it sustainable for longer than the first couple of years? One of my siblings just gifted me a kombucha culture and brewing kit, and I'm super excited to nerd out about it. One of the things that I got this year was a Nightmare Before Christmas cross-stitch kit, and I've never done cross-stitch before. So that's going to be a fun thing to learn how to do. Totally depends on the terrain as well. There's a lot of factors. More and more people are doing homesteads. Yeah, we're trying to sell and get property ourselves. Will I love cross-stitch? I love crochet. I don't know if I will love cross-stitch. It's basically pixel art though, right? You know, you can effectively, if I wanted to make original cross-stitch art, I would just need to know how to do pixel art. I have a small patio to work with. We had to get rid of our bird feeder over the summer because it had wasps in it. Yeah, yeah, I mean, wasps are useful. You know, you want them sometimes. Honestly, having wasps around tells me that I guess it depends on what species of wasp, but particularly if you have a parasitic species, then you know that there's some pest around that they are eating on. Old episodes of Victory Garden from PBS way back in the day. I don't know anything about it, but I made a note, so I'll look it up later. It is absolutely pixel art. It's so easy to make patterns. Cross stitch is my jam. Generating income on a homestead is important as well. Yeah, I guess, yeah, in the short term, it's like, okay, can we just sell some of our shit at a farmer's market? That would be great. Longer term, it's going to be more probably a barter and trade kind of thing. And, you know, am I going to shift full time into doing homestead shit and not doing political streaming anymore? I've figured out some tips and tricks recently to make the editing process much faster. So there is a good chance that I might still be able to do that kind of stuff. If only I knew the first thing about maintaining my soil and land, like you said, you gotta look it up. You just gotta, like, read and buy books and stuff. It's the Stardew Valley life, truly. Do you listen to the Poor Proles Almanac? Yes, it was recommended to me, and I am not very far into it, but I have listened to, like, 5 episodes of it. Excuse me. Bald-faced wasps can be trained to recognize people. It's plausible to have a mutualistic relationship with them because the queen knows you and all generations follow suit. That's fascinating. Thank you, Typical. The pussy you asked for should be in your inbox right now. I appreciate that. Listen, we would live in a much better world if the economy was anything like Animal Crossing. Yeah, I'll just build you a house, and then you can pay me back over the period of time by selling my son's bugs. That sounds great. Old societies didn't generally barter that much before currency. Village people knew and trusted each other, and the townspeople supported one another communally. Barter was typically reserved for strangers. Yeah, well, I don't have a village. So, but I was thinking about that, though. You know, if I have a resource like honey or rope, and someone comes through and they're like, oh man, you know, I could really use some fucking rope. If they didn't have something to trade, you know, I think it might be a situation where I'm like, well, you know, why don't you stay for dinner and help clean up afterward, and we'll call that a fair trade. I'll let you have some of that rope. You know, like, am I gonna, if the world collapses, is payment always required? Probably not. Lamp oil? Oh yeah, that's an interesting idea. Lamp oil. I guess I hadn't really thought of lamp oil because I assumed that I could just make candles out of beeswax. Tom Nook is a halal lender. No interest. True. Fun stuff. But yeah, we like to dream about self-sustainability and frankly, I imagine it in the woods, kind of. Not like really, really in the woods, but I imagine it like, you know, a clear sort of area in a mountainous, foresty location. I might end up kind of living in like rural Oregon or rural Washington. What's up, Kitty Tick? Welcome in. Crossover between solar punk and wild punk? What is solar punk? I can imagine what wild punk is. Yeah, I need all the rupees. Gosh. So, yeah, for today, we are going to get into the politics here in a little bit, like maybe another 10 minutes or so. And we've got some stuff lined up today. Frankly, we've got some stuff to talk about. And it's certainly going to happen. I don't want to go all the way to Alaska. Just got to have a chainsaw and learn how to fell problem trees, and you can even use the wood from that for structures. Yeah. Well, yes and no. You also like ripping out the stump is kind of a whole thing. Solar punk is like using tech alongside with living alongside nature. Oh, okay. Nice. There's lots of great anarchist videos about solar punk. Okay. Well, what is wild punk compared to solar punk? Is like that's a little bit less technology, I'm assuming. Hey, there's like 40 people in here. Can you hit the like button real quick? Even if you don't stick around, hit the like button. And then come over to the website where we have this custom chat with custom emojis and direct donations where YouTube doesn't take 30% of your money. Yeah, solar punk is when the electric guitars and bass are solar powered. Obviously. Obviously. Saint Andrewism does solar punk videos. Okay. Interesting. I'll have to look into it. Solar punk is more aesthetic than practice. I don't really care about the labels. I don't want to label it anything in particular. It's just me trying to, like, survive the impending global climate catastrophe. Can cost a lot to rip out trunks roots, so it has to be worth it to pull the whole stump. It's not always necessary to pull the whole stump. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, well, yeah. It is not always necessary to pull the whole stump. Oh man, my wrist hurts like a bitch, but I don't know where my wrist strap is right now, so just gonna have to deal with that for a bit. Do I have one? Nope, it's not out here. Yeah, but again, you don't know what you're gonna find when you buy land, you go out there, you try to figure things out. You have no idea what it's gonna look like, and you don't know what the regulations are gonna be like. I was watching something about a lady who lived in Oregon, and they were establishing basically a series of ponds on their land to try to increase the presence of water in the land. And they ended up building most of it before like getting a permit. I guess they just neglected to get a permit. Maybe they didn't realize they needed one. And they ended up being allowed to make it because they managed to convince the basically the inspector or whoever had the jurisdiction that what they were doing was going to end up adding water to the aquifer. And it has had a positive impact on the environment. Like, it's been a few years with these ponds, and they're kind of in this like natural terrace, and they are having like much more greenery. Their animals are having greater output because they're just being fed better. So it makes a big difference. And the presence of water in the ground is also enabling the springs in the area to push more water out, essentially. So the springs are more active and productive. So, yeah, all this kind of stuff is what I'm really interested in right now. Like, yeah, what do you do in the first year? Like, I think that's, in the first year, you need to have a plan for what you're going to do beyond that, obviously, and be able to start on something. Like, establish the location of the greenhouse. Probably plant any trees, any fruit trees or anything like that that you plan on having on your land. Probably want to do it in the first. You just can't have a large impact on the water table is the issue with permitting, right? somehow they were able to convince the inspector that water is good. Yeah. In a place like Oregon, where you have wildfires, I imagine that it wouldn't be very difficult to convince the authority having jurisdiction that the presence of water in the soil is going to cause the environment to be resistant to drought and therefore resistant to fire. You know, I feel like that's not a hard argument to make. At least I would hope. Cultivating a shrubland will increase the amount of water in the local water cycle with the lowest upfront cost. A shrubland? I'm not familiar with it. Do you know good anarchism videos / YouTubers? Honestly, not really, Letters for Jupiter. I am not really invested in, like, anarchist culture, like, or anarchist theory. I kind of have just realized that the basic premise that states themselves are not a good thing is, like, a correct thing. And then I do think I need to do some study on social dynamics in small groups like communes so that there can be, if I were to go that direction, primarily currently I'm just thinking of, I want to have land, I want to be able to produce enough for myself to survive and have enough that I could potentially trade with other people. You know, obviously you want a surplus of anything. So either I have an excess that I can trade or an excess that I can turn into other products. Like, you know, the apple butter exists because we were trying to figure out how to preserve apples because we had a lot of them during the harvest season, but we didn't want to eat all of them, but we didn't want them to go bad. So what do you do with them? Well, you learn how to preserve stuff. So yeah, obviously you want to have a surplus because that means that you have enough and it means that you can save for when you don't have enough. But I haven't really been thinking about it in terms of like, oh, I should start a commune. But I think that maybe I should. So finding people who talk about these things. Zoe Baker, is she a YouTube? Is she a YouTube? My wrist really, really, really hurts. And I don't know what the problem is. And I wish that I had my wrist brace out here. Zoe Baker. Okay, she seems interesting. She's a trans YouTube. Okay. Jeller Zeller says, I'll join your commune. I'm good at sewing. Good old Mormon family taught me good homemaking skills. Nice. Yeah, are you good at sewing with a sewing machine or by hand? The answer, as usual, is more beaver and bush. If we have more beavers damming rivers, then those damn beavers will promote bushes that stabilize a drought-stricken plain. Yeah, wetlands are good for beavers, and they're good. She's called Baker because her videos be cooking. Okay, I subscribe to Zoe Baker. Andrewism. Okay, I guess I'll follow. Yeah, I subscribed to him. Cool. What's the name of the Luxander compound? What is the name of it? What would we call it? If I had my little homestead farm, what do we call it? Wetlands are just good, period. I know! I love wetlands. We have a Supreme Court that decided wetlands require water be connected to a river by visible water in order to be protected. It might be difficult to make that argument to anyone in our government. Well, we can hope that in Washington State or Oregon State, they have better local water rules. Better local, regulations. Oh, boy. My connective tissues are all acting really weird right now. Like, I have, like, soreness in a bunch of different places. And my wrist hurts really bad right now. I'm like, what is your problem? The Draco Sanctum. The Dragonmont. It's called the Dragonmont. That's a Song of Ice and Fire reference. El Luxado. Yeah, I haven't really given any thought to this. This is the thing, like, this is the thing about me, is that I just am not that concerned with labels. Like, what are you gonna call the farm? I don't know. The place where I live. But it would be good to have a brand idea. I have an idea behind the brand so that when the time comes and I inevitably start posting content about it, that way I can have something to like, point to. Man. I learned at work that we sell plasma to South Korea to make cosmetics. Like blood plasma? We've been talking about donating blood plasma recently in the context of being poor. I might really have to I might have to, like, go find my wrist brace because this really is, like, actively quite painful for no particular reason. Yes, blood plasma. Oh my god. Oregon, has unfortunately had really crap water regulations as far as, like, taking care of our wetlands for the last 500 years, but we do have some new stuff that just happened. Wait. Is there a typo in there? I'm not understanding that sentence. 4 really big dams are getting taken down. Okay, well, that's good. Hey, that sounds like progress. If some dams are being removed, then that means that there's going to be more water in the land. That's really good stuff. Okay, I am really sorry to have to take a break this early in the show, but I have to go find my wrist brace. Like, I really don't know what's happening, but it hurts very badly. Thank you, Nox. Popped in to like the stream and saying hi. Appreciate you. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can find my wrist thing really fast. BRB! Hi, how you doing today? Yeah, my wrist hurts real bad, and I don't know why, so I'll be back in a second. Okay, my wrist is now contained. It doesn't hurt any less now that it's in the brace, but hopefully it will start to make a difference soon. Anyway, yes, go get some rest, Nox. There's going to be 100,000 acres of wetlands being restored in the Willamette. That's great to hear. Oh, for the last 100 years. Sure, yeah, the last 100 years. It's been... I need protein. What should I eat? Eggs. Eat eggs. Eggs are delicious. So much protein. Earlier, I ate, some sausage. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of sausage, but summer sausage is pretty delicious. I almost made some eggs earlier, but I was busy baking bread. Oh god. Okay, we're gonna have to get talking about the real news momentarily. What did you do to your wrist? I don't know, Samantha. That's the crazy thing, is I'm just fucking sitting here and it's just like, I'm gonna start throbbing. I'm like, okay, that sounds great. I mean, I kind of wish you wouldn't, but yeah, so now I'm just gonna, like, try not to move it. I had huge egg cravings last week. It was probably protein deficiency. Sure, or it could have been some other, I don't know, there's probably other nutritional things going on in eggs, but eggs are yummy. They definitely have to be part of my diet. I love it. No, I haven't been to the gym since last week. My connective tissue is all really painful this last day or two. Like, my hips really hurt and my shoulders really hurt. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of a matter of time before it'll spread to my wrist, I suppose. I want to make deviled eggs eventually. I realized I've always liked them, but never made them. Grandma told me how, but I don't understand how they get that shape. So you just hard boil the eggs. You know, you hard boil them, and that means the yolk gets all solid. And then you cut them in half long ways. Like you cut the whole egg in half long ways. And then you scrape the yolk out of the little circle. And then you mix it with like some mustard, a little tiny bit of vinegar, some like pickle relish if you want to, maybe a little bit of salt, and some mayonnaise. And those things together with the yolk, you know, you mix it all in, and then you put it back in the eggs. Either, you know, you can pipe them if you really want to go fancy with it, or you can just dollop them in with your spoon, and then you just like shake a little paprika over the top, and that's the whole thing. I'm so excited to share all these homesteading links. My heart is so full of love. Well, good, thank you. I'm so glad. Eggs are great, and they get even better once they've realized they're trans. True. My wrist acts up from time to time. I have gout in my wrists. I don't think I have gout. I don't really know anything about gout, but I do have random connective tissue symptoms, so yay. It hurts a little bit less now. Yep. Eggs are delicious. Any eggs I eat become deviled. I like the way you say mayonnaise. Yeah, mayonnaise. It turns out that because I'm from the middle of the United States, and because I listen to people online who have a lot of different accents, like, I just don't ever pronounce things consistently. Sometimes it's caramel, sometimes it's caramel. Like, sometimes it's mayonnaise, sometimes it's mayonnaise, sometimes it's mayonnaise. It just never comes out the same twice. It's mayonnaise. French is BS language anyways, don't worry about it. Listen, I like French. I'm taking it again on Duolingo after I had 3 years of it in high school, and I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. Okay, well, we're losing viewers because everybody's like, I want you to talk about politics, and I'm wasting time talking about nothing important. Politics. Okay. Sometimes I just try to say y'all and pecan, like in the South when I'm there, even if I'm not from there. Pecan. Pecan and pecan. I've always associated pecan with the South. You want some pecan pie? Pecan, I've always thought of as being more northern. Remoulade is better than mayonnaise. Well, I've never had a remoulade. So, there. I don't know. How do you make a remoulade? How is it different from mayonnaise? But it's funny that I watched so much random foodie stuff that I knew how to pronounce remoulade because I've heard it said. It's usually used for fish here. Well, I also don't really love fish, so. Pecan is closer to how the indigenous peoples say it. Oh, that's interesting. Both pronunciations of pecan slash pecan are frequently heard in Virginia, 50-50 of any group of people. Impressive. Okay. What should we talk about first, y'all? We have like a couple of different stories about cops doing weird shit. We've got update about Gaza and some trans related stuff. Like, what should we start with today? We've got several things we could be talking about. Want to start with trans stuff? Start heavy and hard with Gaza IMO. Agreed, trans-related stuff. We want to start with trans stuff. My wrist is finally starting to chill out a little bit. Compression, you guys? Turns out compression is very, very, very helpful. All right, well, so we've got like 2 different options for trans stuff. We can talk about rapid onset gender dysphoria or Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton being a psychopath again. I don't know if what I'm going to be talking about is anything to do with Nazareth. Maybe. I've not heard the name Nazareth along with what I specifically plan on talking about. We should make a word search for trans-related things. What if I put out a little puzzle book and all the puzzles were trans-related? Little $5 puzzle book. We want to do ROGD. I guess this is kind of good news. This is a kind of a good news today. Yeah, rapid onset gender dysphoria just to get it over with. True. Well, hit the like button if you haven't yet. Hit the like button because we're about to start on the politics, which I know is what you're all here for. Educate about gender and trans issues via games. Sound perfect if you ask me. Bad things happened on Christmas Day. It was something. So one thing I will say about Age of Ultron, Avengers 2 Age of Ultron, before I continue on, is that it is a little bit hard to watch certain parts of it if you have been recently seeing footage from Palestine. It's just, like, it's like they had to invent a fake country, Sokovia, in order to be able to tell the kind of story that they wanted to tell, because it is all too familiar to people who are familiar with, like, the battle lines being drawn in the West Bank and, like, throughout that part of the world, frankly. So, yeah, that's the one thing that was a little bit emotionally compelling about that movie. And I liked Vision and his whole coming into existence thing. But anyhow. Let's go on to rapid onset gender dysphoria. I kind of want to just explain it in general, I guess, to start with. Rapid onset gender dysphoria. Familiar with gender dysphoria, I'm sure. You're familiar with that. But what is it when it's rapid onset? What is that? It's a fake diagnosis, just to be clear right out the gate. The idea of rapid onset gender dysphoria was basically birthed among these groups of parents who were struggling with their trans children having come out. Sometimes those are like trans children who are minors, and sometimes it's like they're adult children. And these parents were like, oh my God, there were no signs, this social contagion thing. All of their friends came out as trans, and then my kid came out as trans. So they see it as being trans is not really a real thing, or maybe some of them believe, okay, yes, it's a real thing, but only for a vanishingly small minority. And for most people, they just think it's cool and it's a fad they're getting caught up in. And they have, like, all the research on rapid onset gender dysphoria that supports the idea is in some way methodologically flawed. Like, for example, one of the main studies in support of rapid onset gender dysphoria was, like, based on survey results from the adult parents. I guess saying adult in that context is kind of redundant, but the parents of trans kids who, some of whom were like their adult children. And so it's the adults who are not privy to all the private information in the trans person's life and in their mind saying from the outside, okay, no, I for sure, like my kid for sure didn't show any signs until they were, suddenly all of their friends came out as trans and then they got caught up in it, which is obviously pretty frustrating for a lot of trans people who are sitting there going, so you mean when I used to, like that one time when I dressed up in my mom's heels and I got like in trouble for it? What do you mean there were no signs that I was trans when I was a kid? That can be quite trying because parents for some reason have amnesia about the signs that their kids were showing when they were younger. They're like, it's just they're gaslighting themselves. I don't really know what the problem is. They can't even say what those signs are supposed to be. Well, yeah, Darth Gently, the problem as always is what are the signs as a cis person thinks they should look? What it's like, oh, did you show any signs? The kind of stuff that they think to look for are not necessarily reflective of what trans people actually do. Like if you have a kid who refuses to shower, most adults probably wouldn't think, oh, my kid has gender dysphoria. They'd probably think, oh, my kid's being obstinate. They are lazy. They just don't want to. Or maybe if the parent is charitable, they might be like, oh, my kid is apparently struggling with maybe some depression, or maybe they're being bullied at school. People don't usually think the kid is not showering because they have gender dysphoria. So like, you have to perform a specific kind of expression or suffering that cis people will identify as legitimate gender dysphoria. So even if you did, let's say you could have the kind of example of a kid who did show signs when they were younger, but either they were assigned female and so tomboyishness was not particularly punished, or they were assigned male and were being punished for it, and then the parents are like, I don't know what you're talking about. Or lots of kids have signs that any trans person could look at and go, yeah, that is a trans teenager who's depressed because they haven't figured their shit out yet. But a cisgender adult is going to look at that and, come up with a number of other explanations. And, the fact that it's so frustrating that, you can be a trans adult and be able to recognize these things in a trans kid, and the cis adults who refuse to see it as such will try to say that you're causing some problem by pointing it out for what it is. So, if anything, that's like egg prime directive is like leave people alone because of that, like that dynamic. But yeah, if you're not suffering unbearably, you don't deserve to do what will make you happy. Cis people with no concept of gender euphoria. Biggest sign of trans femme egg is long hair and leather jacket. Oh yeah, and like a denial beard if they can manage it. I so wished when I found out anyone would have simply told me about it before, but no one said a thing. Yeah, it's frustrating. I wanted to be Britney Spears. True. Gender euphoria is what affirmed my gender. Yeah. So anyway, all that being said, there is more research going into the topic of rapid onset gender dysphoria. Maybe not even like specifically for that, but research is still being done on transition rates. And we pull this out all the time. The history of left-handedness, it was being actively suppressed and punished because of being allegedly devil related. And then when you stop doing that, the number shoots up dramatically. And then, oh my God, suddenly we have like 3 times as, look at that, 4% and then up to 12%. There's 3 times as much left-handedness. Oh my God, devil worship is off the charts. And then it levels out. So actually, what we're going to be reading about today is that numbers for trans people are leveling out. So it's, the rapid onset gender dysphoria thing it's part of the broader conversation where these people like to say that being trans is this newfangled thing. It's this brand new fad. You know, all these people are going to end up regretting it, and it just doesn't end up looking like that most of the time. It's exploding in popularity or whatever because we're not actively suppressing it as much. There's still plenty of active, suppression and hatred toward trans people, and we're experiencing a backlash of that right now. But yeah, mainly we're seeing this increase temporarily as a societal shift happens where people who probably formerly would have just felt weird and depressed their whole life and been unsure what the reason was, and then they would have died in obscurity. Instead, those people are like, oh, I see a trans person not being hate crimed in public. Wow, I could be that. I guess that's what is wrong with me. And then the depression and everything goes away and they don't die like dejected and alone. So increasing rates of acceptance are increasing, quote, the rate of transition, but it's gonna level out, and it is starting to level out. Also, even if it was exploding in popularity, I'm gonna need transphobes to have an actual valid reason for that to be a bad thing. I mean, they're basically just terrified of gender dysphoria, but they want to inflict that on trans people, to protect all cis people from ever potentially having a regretful trans experience. My grandmother raised me and tried to force me to write with my right hand until my kindergarten teacher told her she was hurting my development. People are still crazy. I have an aunt who was forced to write with her right hand in the 60s there. Yeah. Yeah, and of course, compared to the left-handed thing, yeah, punishing your trans child also is going to set their development back. But yeah, so... Oh, let's see, where is the research in here? Okay. So basically, obviously Aaron is agreeing, the apparent increase in trans individuals is likely attributable to the removal of the negative barriers. This study shows that we may be seeing the stabilization now. Basically, like, graphs showing the rate of individuals in these different age groups. So, the number of very old people very old people who are trans remains pretty low on that yellow line. I don't know if this is friendly to colorblind people. But yeah. So we're seeing, oh, look, right here, transgender men, diagnosis of gender dysphoria. There was a spike in 2018, and it's starting to come back down a little bit among young people, ages like 15 to 19. Oh, these are two different things. The diagnosis up here, this is the rate of diagnosis of gender dysphoria, and this is the rate down here of legal sex change, I believe. So, yeah, we saw like a sharp increase around 2016 for both groups. Transgender women diagnosis did not go up as dramatically, but their rate of diagnosis was already fairly high. And of course, like, any increase looks high if you're like looking at really low percentages. Or is this a percentage? Oh, it's just a rate, like per capita, which makes it a little bit harder to compare. I'm not sure exactly what rate means in this context. But basically what we're showing is a sharp increase around a time when there was a social acceptance occurring, and then that rate has leveled off a little bit, or like dropping slightly, and then it's going to start leveling off. Yeah, true. The more that trans people are accepted worldwide, the more comfortable they are to come out and transition. Surprise. It's up 12,000% from one person to 13 people. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Yeah, yeah. If the current rate is 2% and it goes up to 4%, then that's like, oh my God, it doubled. But it's like, okay, a 2% increase, like, and I'm just making up numbers. That's a dramatic increase. Like, but yeah. Also, yeah, like detransition isn't inherently bad. That's the other thing about the whole like trying to prevent regret aspect of this. Um so there are a couple of caveats in this study to, just focus on. So the study is focusing primarily on gender marker changes and diagnoses of dysphoria, which are both like things that not every trans person has access to. Not every trans person gets a diagnosis, can afford a diagnosis, can afford to do the legal gender marker change, like even has permission to do a gender marker change. So, yeah. Secondly, the study is examining Sweden, where the barriers to accessing care are different from those in the United States. So the stabilization rates in both countries can vary as the populations respond to different barriers. So yeah, some trans people are not seeking access to medical care and everything like this. So there are some things to keep, a grain of salt in mind or whatever. But for the most part, we're basically seeing, yes, there was a temporary increase and then it's leveling off, which is what we predicted. This is how you actually do science, everybody. You have a prediction and then you see what happens and does what occurs in your experiment or with the data, does it match your prediction? Like, yeah, because we are already familiar with this concept, again, the history of left-handedness, like, yeah, if you just stop actively preventing people from being left-handed, or in this case, if you stop actively preventing people from being trans, there is always going to be, okay, yeah, seems like there's a sudden dramatic increase, and then it's just going to level off because the number of left-handed people is stable in the population, and the number of trans people would probably be relatively stable in the population if we could just allow them to be people. Because it's like hard statistically to look at this like historical data on account of we basically haven't had a time in recent history where we aren't actively suppressing trans people. So it's like hard to get data on what the prevalence actually is in society. I used to be scared I would regret transitioning, and I don't, but I also now at this point don't understand why so much fear is even built around it. It's just a different experience in life. That's cool. Yeah. Also, as a former public health statistician, I have been shouting these points for years. It is going to level off, and then we can level off better healthcare in an ideal world. Of course, people are dumb. Oh my God, dude. Wrist pain. I'm gonna have to get more water soon. I am just very drinky of water today. Stop actively persecuting trans people challenge 2024. Can we do it? For people worried about detransitioners, wouldn't letting people try all the reversible stuff as freely and comfortably as they want be an easy thing to advocate for? No, because we've seen that when we restrict and gatekeep things the way that we are now, the majority of people who start the reversible stuff, like hormone blockers, for example, then go on to usually get cross-sex hormones and HRT. So they also oppose starting on puberty blockers because they're like, this is starting them on a path and they won't come off of it. And it's part of the reason why they're advocating against trans sports access is like, oh, well, these kids, they have to medically transition in order to do the sports, and if they start the medical transition, then they might not stop, they might not switch back. I'm like, yeah, so they just want people to stop being trans. I know I want HRT, but I don't know if I want surgeries. Yeah, the surgery thing, like, I've been thinking about it myself too. And, like, yeah, there are, for some types of surgeries, there are long term things to consider, such as, like, if I'm thinking, oh, there might be, I think that I've even said this recently on stream. If I'm thinking, oh, there might be, like, a collapse of the healthcare system or like an infrastructure collapse, then, if you get like silicone breast implants, for example, they have to be replaced every 10 years. And if there's no access to medical care, then what are you going to do? I've been accused of being, quote, addicted to estrogen. Do not, my friends, become addicted to water. That's what that sounds like to me. I haven't seen that movie, but that is what it sounds like. I don't want to talk about Biden today. I fucking hate that guy. I'm like, I don't want to talk about him right now. I am just choosing to abstain from thinking about him at this moment. Okay, I need my stream notes. Where are they? I need to put some stuff in my stream notes. This is our second to last stream of the year. Isn't that fun? What did I just news? Social ROGD. I don't need this tab anymore. Thank you. Go away. Thank you. Making sure I've got all my links up and ready. If you're here and you've not yet hit the like button, please consider hitting the like button. Also, if you're feeling Christmassy, maybe pitch me $5. I don't know. Not a big deal if you don't. I'm not ready for 2024. I know. A phrase I don't hear regularly enough is, there are 3 types of lies. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. The misuse of technically correct statistics can be used a lot more maliciously than an outright lie. Yeah, we're experiencing that a lot with this whole anti-trans backlash. People are just willing to misuse data, and frankly, they're just willing to make up data. The 80% study is all methodologically flawed and all that, but they also don't care even about sticking to that number, because people will allude to the 80% and then they'll just start throwing out other numbers. They'll be like, oh, 95% of these people end up going back anyway. Like, they don't actually care about the statistical accuracy. It's just a way for them to be manipulative. What's up, Soda account? Welcome on. First time catching us live. Well, thanks for coming in. If it's your first time here, welcome. Don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're interested, you might consider coming over to the website. That's what this chat is. It's not Twitch. It's my website. The 80% study didn't even claim 80%. It was like 64. Well, they ended up counting the ones who simply stopped going or stopped responding to the study. They counted those as people who desisted from being trans, and instead of just being like folks who stopped participating in the study. So that's part of the reason why the number is so wrong. Mince pie update in the oven. Ooh, it's probably cooled down enough that I can show you my bread. Do you want to see the bread that I baked earlier? We will resume talking about politics momentarily, but I want to show you the bread. I'm really glad that I didn't knead the bread by hand earlier, because my wrist probably would have been hurting way more. Best number is the number of major medicals that subscribe to the gender-affirming model, but they usually don't. They're like, oh, those are all ideologically influenced, and, those people can't be trusted. They're in the pockets of big pharma. And then, meanwhile, the organizations that they reference for their statistics are like, organizations that deliberately name themselves something similar to a more prestigious organization in order to obfuscate the fact that they don't do any actual research. Was that the study where they counted children who play with other gendered toys as potential trans who resolved when growing up? I think maybe. I don't know. It was some really, like, numerous things about that study were overblown. Hey, thank you very much for binging the content for about a week. I appreciate that. I've been putting out a lot of content recently, so I'm glad that it's being appreciated. But let me go get the bread. I'm gonna show you the bread. I'm so excited about the bread. Look at my little bread. It's bread. It smells like bread, and I'm excited to eat it later. It's still a little tiny bit warm, so yes, I'm excited. It's like a little bit crispier on the outside than I wanted it to be, which I think means that I have to get ceramic baking pans because I cooked it a in like a nonstick pan. Anyway, I'm very excited to eat some of this later. I'm not baking bread for the purpose of eating an entire loaf of bread at once. I'm baking bread for the purpose of not having to buy bread from the store anymore. But the temptation to just dip this in olive oil and eat it straight up, that might still end up being what happens. Uh, bread. I am a wonderful cook. Thank you very much. I am not as good at baking yet. I'm trying to bake sometimes. Aladdin would steal the hell out of that bread. I know. Excuse me. Dip in hummus. I don't have any hummus. I guess I have chickpeas. I could literally just make my own hummus. I know, it was such a good color. It was delicious. I'm excited to eat the bread later. It's gonna be good. What am I doing? Oh, I'm about to finish my coffee. That's so sad. I would recommend Irish soda bread as a good bread to make. I have not heard of that before. I can't wait for avocados to be back in season again, because right now they cost like more than $2 for just one. Althea, hey, welcome to the website chat. Finally figured it out. Hell yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna eat with it later. Again, it was my intention for this just to be like, this is the bread that we use for sandwiches and anything else. Can't wait till I have a full/real oven again. I have a countertop mini one now, but it's not great for breads. Yeah, I know. So sad. Lightning outside. Aren't we loving this winter? We're loving this winter. Full of fucking rainstorms in December. It's been a little bit, it's trying to snow a little bit after Christmas this week here in Kansas, but it's like not cold enough, you know? The ground is still warm because it's been in the 50s all the time during the day. So the ground hasn't had a chance to cool off, so there's like the snow isn't sticking around. It is weirdly warm for Christmas, yeah. We're starting to see it. It's starting to happen in a way that is harder to ignore. Okay, what are we talking about next? Ooh, yeah, grilled cheese. Mmm. I love to make just a really simple cinnamon toast. Like you toast it, you put butter on it, you put cinnamon sugar, It's a delicious little snack. Ooh, a recipe for soda bread. May need to keep an eye on the flood alerts. Okay, we got bread. Thank you for the bread recipe. I'll look at it later. I went back to that 80% study and double checked. 22% couldn't be contacted, 41% desisted, 37% continued. So there was 63% who allegedly desisted or who couldn't be counted, basically. No worries, but thanks for going back and checking. Bread. I do kind of want to go cut the heel off the bread and eat it. Cinnamon butter sugar mix on top of cinnamon raisin bread. Listen, if the bread is sweet already, then it just needs salty butter on top. That is, I think, the ideal way to do things. You gotta have a balance of the sweet and the salty, like the sweet and the savory. So yeah, like if I have a sweet bread, I want it to have just butter on top. Yeah. I think I'm gonna cut off a piece of the bread and eat it. Just plain bread, and I'll get some water while I'm at it. And then we'll talk about our next thing. So we've got 2 stories about police being weird. Since we have 2 stories about police being weird, we'll just have to pick one. Sweet fluffy breads are the best for making French toast. Usually if I'm going to make French toast, I buy Texas toast, and then you do actually want to leave it out for like overnight, and then because you want stale bread for French toast. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna go get a slice of bread, and then I'll bring it back and I'll show you how the inside of the bread looks delicious. Hit the like button and don't go anywhere, because we're about to talk more politics. More police being fascist. Wow. I make oven toast with remoulade, tomatoes, and sandwich cheese. I'm gonna have to Google what the fuck is a remoulade. What is remoulade? Salad or seafood dressing made with hard-boiled egg yolks, oil, and vinegar, flavored with mustard, capers, and herbs. It's okay, so it's like if you take mayonnaise and get it halfway to being well no, it's most of the way toward being deviled eggs. You do want stale bread for French toast. Otherwise it's way too wet. Way too wet. Okay, I'll be back. Be good. Okay, now I'm back. Here's my bread. It smells really good. And I got some more water. Okay. Why would it be wet? You cook it. Yeah, what I'm saying is there's still a lot of moisture in the bread if it's fresh bread. The inside of the bread, if it absorbs too much of the egg, if it's still moist inside the bread, the inside still stays too wet. You know? Go watch the Mythical Kitchen channel video about it. So this is a pretty mild bread. It's a pretty mild, not too sweet. I think that I could get used to this being like a bread that I eat regularly. It would definitely do better with some butter. I decided not to do any butter. Yeah, I'm channeling my inner Kropotkin. We're getting this bread. Delicious. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I can see why people want to expand their bread to make it more interesting. Because this is like a normal, like, okay, it's not very exciting. Like, should I have used sugar instead of honey? I'm not totally sure. I should also make my own bread, TBH. It's so expensive to buy it at the store. There's a reason why I'm baking my own bread. I had a sour donut the other day. It worked surprisingly well. I'm generally not a huge fan of sourdough, but I'm interested in maybe trying a home-done one because maybe the problem is that store-bought sourdough sucks. Yeah, we're smuggy for food right now. Delicious. Okay, so we have 2 stories about cops being weird. Technically, technically we have 2 stories about cops being weird. I'm gonna try to finish eating this bread real quick. Delicious. Okay. Where I live, flour is more expensive than bread. Oh no. I've been to the US and honestly, you can't call those cakes bread. I'm German and even in the damn bakeries, they don't sell real bread. I was so disappointed. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a very processed product. Like, it's a lot more processed than people want to admit. And yeah, so I'm trying to, I'm just trying to have less processed foods. I think that's probably the biggest difference with this bread versus the breads that I'm used to, is that this bread is not nearly so sweet. Yeah, cornbread doesn't require flour. It just requires corn meal. Depressing analysis. Trans and queer people know that our existence is very conditional, and thus we fixate on food because we know it can be ripped away at any time. I don't know that I've ever thought about it that deeply. I mean, listen. Okay, listen. I am powerless to help anything that's going on in Gaza. So I'm focusing on the imminent problems of escaping state persecution. So I'm trying to move out of Kansas. My second problem is surviving the climate catastrophe. And so, like, because these problems are bigger than I think human brains are supposed to deal with on the regular, like, my world is shrinking down to I need to learn some very practical skills. Like, I need to bake my own bread to save money. I was on foraging Reddit the other day because I've been, finding more different varied sources to learn stuff. And there are people who I think, I'm not sure what their country is, but there are people who are normally experiencing like the normal standard of living where you go to the supermarket and stuff. So living in ostensibly first world areas who are learning to forage and hunt because they can't afford food. So it's like not just an issue of there being shortages, but of you just not having the money to afford food. And then, yeah, like literally teaching yourself to forage wild onions and stuff because you cannot afford them. Making soft-boiled eggs and then dunking buttered toast stripes into it is way better than French toast. Well, French toast is meant to be a sweet dish, right? It's meant to be sweet, whereas dunking toast into eggs is like savory all the way through. keep feeling like I'm wasting time doing frivolous human things, need to go into full survival mode. Listen, frivolous human things keep you sane, and sanity is one of the essential things that you need in order to survive. I'm having some nice bread you could literally throw through a window like a brick right now. Nice. Okay, so I bet most of you assumed that your medical information is basically private, including your prescriptions at the pharmacy. You know, that's kind of the expectation, I think, that any old person can't walk up and take your prescription, or any old person can't walk up and go, hey, I need information about this person's prescription. You know, it's considered protected, right? You think, oh, HIPAA is protecting us on this one, right? Also, frivolous human things are a great way to build community. True. You need hobbies and people to just have stuff in common with. Just need to have stuff in common with people. Anyway, it turns out that these HIPAA protections are not as stringent as you think they are. Doesn't HIPAA only protect you if it's identifiable information? I think that might be the case, but in this case, it's like stuff that you think should be private because it's identifiable, you know? So this information is coming to us from, this is actually a letter to Secretary Barbara. Or sorry, hold on. There's like a burp that's trying to happen and it's making it hard for me to think and focus. Can you please? So uncomfortable. So this information is coming to us from, this is a letter to the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, the Honorable Xavier Becerra. So, dear Secretary Becerra, we are writing to share concerning findings from a recent oversight inquiry into the privacy practices of pharmacies related to law enforcement demands for patient records. So, basically, apparently there is a problem with law enforcement being able to just go to a pharmacy and demand patient records, and the requirements, there just aren't really like explicit requirements preventing this from happening. And so most pharmacies don't really do anything to prevent like inappropriate access. So, okay, let me breathe. Let me look through this. So this thing says, through briefings with the major pharmacies, we learned that each year law enforcement agencies secretly obtain the prescription records of thousands of Americans without a warrant. In many cases, pharmacies are handing over sensitive medical records without review by a legal professional. Although pharmacies are legally permitted to tell their customers about government demands for their data, most don't. As a result, many Americans' prescription records have very few meaningful privacy protections, and these protections vary wildly depending on what pharmacy they use. Let's see. So this organization has studied the issue by contacting the nation's 7 largest pharmacy chains, including CVS Health, Walgreens, Boots Alliance, Cigna, Optum Rx, Walmart Stores, Inc., and the Kroger Company and Rite Aid Corporation, as well as Amazon Pharmacy. The briefings have made it clear that these companies' privacy practices vary wildly in ways that seriously impact patient privacy. So this is basically most of the providers across the country. You're talking Kroger and Walmart and CVS. Those are like most pharmacies across the country. Obviously, it's quite revealing of personal and sensitive details to have your prescriptions. You know, yeah, like your prescription for birth control the government just being able to know that you have that with basically no oversight. So 5 of the 8 pharmacy companies surveyed, the ones are Amazon, Cigna, OptumRx, Walmart, and Walgreens Boots Alliance, attested that they require law enforcement demands for pharmacy records to be reviewed by legal professionals prior to responding to those requests. Okay, so, 5 of these are doing their due diligence, allegedly, requiring law enforcement demands to be observed by the legal professionals that they probably have on staff. The 3 remaining chains, CVS Health, Kroger, and Rite Aid, indicated that their pharmacy staff face extreme pressure to immediately respond to law enforcement demands, and as such, the companies instruct their staff to process those requests in the store. So that makes it sound like, okay, the the cops are just pressuring your employees so hard that you've decided to change your company policy in order to accommodate, like, bullying. Like, aren't there general data protection rules outside of HIPAA medical ones? I don't know if this would be covered under that either. So CVS Health and the Kroger Company both defended this practice, arguing that their pharmacy staff, who are not lawyers or paralegals, are trained to respond to such requests and can contact the legal department if they have any questions. So honestly, it really does just seem like they're trying to, like, it's such a problem. It's such an issue. It's so hard to say no to these police officers that we've just decided to say, we're going to allow them to steal the information. But because there's no process to check, a lawyer or a paralegal would be able to go, okay, well, I can go look for the record of this subpoena. But in the absence of that additional scrutiny, anyone who dresses like a cop can go up to a CVS pharmacy or one of these other pharmacies and demand your personal information, and the pharmacist is instructed by their company to just hand over your data. So this is not even just an issue of the police having inappropriate access to your data, which this is. It is inappropriate access to your data, 100%. But because there's so little scrutiny across so many pharmacies, it could be easily just any person. Honestly, most people don't know they can say no to a cop. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, all the pharmacies who were surveyed in this stated that they do not require a warrant unless there's a state law that dictates that they have to have a warrant. So those pharmacies will turn the medical records over in response to a subpoena, which doesn't have to be reviewed or signed by a judge. So in order to justify this low standard of protection, several pharmacies cited language in HHS regulations that allow healthcare providers to disclose such records if it is required by law, pursuant to legal process, or pursuant to an administrative request. So I guess because it could be pursuant to a legal process. So I think that basically the point of this letter is trying to appeal to the legislative body, like, hey, can you please change your regulations maybe to not allow, it's pursuant to a legal process. Therefore, if we have a subpoena, then we're just going to hand over your personal information. Yeah, so they're basically just urging the Department of Health and Human Services to consider further strengthening the HIPAA regulations to more closely align with Americans' reasonable expectations of privacy and constitutional principles. They should insist on having a warrant. There should be so much more stringency. There should be so much more gatekeeping involved with getting your personal information from, it's like a cop can't walk into your doctor's office and demand information from your doctor just because they've decided that they want to, but they can do that at your pharmacy. So we can hope that something happens, but this is not the kind of thing that there's going to be a lot of public pressure about, I don't think. 'Cause I think most folks don't know about this. Like, most folks are just like, oh, yeah, I'm assuming. But it's like one of those things that, is scary to think about. Even without this whole police thing, anybody who knows your first and last name and, like, your birth date could go to the pharmacy and, like, take your prescription or find out information about you. Like, I don't know what, it just seems like there's not a lot of limitations. you know, I'm not saying that you should have to show your ID at the pharmacy or anything, but it's just, yeah, you could be investigated and never know it. Like, what kind of information are they trying to find out about you? They could find out if you had gotten a Plan B pill, if you were in a place where, like, getting abortion is, like, in a legal gray area, if they can just go to the pharmacy and demand to know, if you took, Plan B and got a prescription for it, they don't even need a warrant. Here we use public health cards for everything now. So you have your own little health card, and that's like your ID, basically. That makes sense. So, yep. Yeah, why are we not in the streets over this? Why are we not in the streets over, like, your prescription stuff? Like, dude, there's people literally having to learn to kill rabbits because they can't afford to buy any meat. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, please, Jeller Zeller, on a Planned Parenthood Action Council, I could definitely bring this up to the legislation team. Yeah, we do need, I think, more people to know about it. I'm also assuming that you have nationalized healthcare. I have a healthcare card with my name, etc., and the pharmacy uses a card reader to see my prescriptions. Like, you swipe it. That seems like a good way to do it. Like a national healthcare system. Just gonna drink some water real quick. Yeah, the pharmacy making you yell your personal info through the glass so everyone can hear. It's true. Yeah, we can't even get a public option. It's crazy. Yeah, we've talked about it recently, but it's crazy how there's so much public support for nationalized healthcare in this country, but there's just absolutely no interest as far as the government is concerned in doing anything with that. Pretty frustrating. Like, why is it just normal for the will of the people to be so out of sync with what the government is doing? Crazy. Even in Canada, I've heard of cases where someone rings a pharmacy up and they'll give out information over the phone without asking security questions. Be better at your job, guys. Be better. I feel like maybe I don't even really have a lot of commentary on this one, so maybe this one will not be a segment fully. But it's worth mentioning that the Texas Attorney General is threatening a Seattle hospital with jail unless it provides trans patient data. Basically, people are leaving Texas, particularly minors, are leaving Texas in order to get access to trans-related healthcare. And so Texas Attorney General is trying to cross his jurisdiction and require another state to give up data about trans people seeking care there. Um, I think that it's not unreasonable to say that this is also going to be happening with regards to abortion. I think that was the main thing that I wanted to bring up with regards to this is, like, you know, there's more and more restrictions on healthcare rights for both trans people and people who need access to reproductive health. So, like, those two issues are entwined, and we're going to increasingly see this whole trying to get people extradited, trying to criminalize taking trans people, like taking your trans kid across state lines because it's like that's prevented under sex trafficking laws or something. Like, they will just keep doing all kinds of crazy stuff and fascistically extending their power. And if the federal government goes the same way as these Republican states, then I think that there's a possibility that there will be a federal movement to curtail or eliminate the ability for certain states to be sanctuary states if they start requiring extradition and things like this. I'm not sure, like, what is going to happen, but this is pretty dramatic. Like, they should not be trying to do this at all. You should not be trying to impose Texas state law on what's going on in Washington. Like, okay, I live in Texas, but I went to another state and I did the thing there. It was legal there where I did it, and then I came back to Texas. So, like, please fuck off about it, you know? It's like the whole thing about marijuana being legalized. Like, if you go to a state where it's legal, like, oh, I'm gonna go to Colorado for the weekend, and I just, like, chill, and I do it there. Like, if you arrested me when I came back to Kansas, assuming that I was sober and everything by the time I got back to Kansas, you know, there should be no punishment on me for what I did legally in the place where it was legal. Like, it is crazy that you would punish me for, like, I explicitly left your jurisdiction so that I could go do the thing that I wanted to do. So why are you trying to extend your jurisdiction? The whole fucking point of the states' rights conversation, the modern day states' rights conversation, is that it's supposed to be up to the people. You know, oh, we shouldn't have federal sweeping regulation because this should be up to the people. And, you know, I might not agree with what the people of New Jersey chose to do here with whatever, but it was the will of the people to do it, and you can't take that away from them. But, you know, only some people actually believe in that. They will claim that they believe in the will of the people, but then, yeah, they are doing a lot of crazy government overreach to restrict your access to basic healthcare. So, states' rights really came in clutch with abortion rights and trans healthcare, TBH. You know, these conservative states passing protections for trans people and for abortion rights, you know, it's not what you expected to see per se, but it's heartening. Anyway, I didn't have, like, a lot more to say beyond that, but, you know, we talked about it. Cool. Look at that. We did another little segment thing. Success! Every time you peel away at the transphobia, you find misogyny under the layer. And then if you peel away at misogyny, you find homophobia under that layer. I do think that, technically speaking, homophobia is rooted in misogyny. Like, I think misogyny is the thing. It's like transphobia, homophobia, misogyny, and then under that is ableism. Because fundamentally, you know, at the end of the day, beliefs that women are inferior kind of fundamentally come back to, oh, well, they're not as strong. And they'll add other things to it, like, oh, well, they're not as smart and things. But it kind of fundamentally, I think, is an ableism. Time to sleep. Good night. Hello, mama. Made it home. Yeah, we've talked about police being dumb, about, it's actually not the police. It's about the way that the HIPAA laws are written is dumb. And then we talked a little bit about another thing, and then we're talking about another thing, and then we're going to talk about more things. and on it goes. Everyone on Whiteleaf is streaming Drama Bomb. Oh no, what's going on? How many people I follow are streaming right now? Shark is streaming and Xanderhall is streaming. Oh, is Xan finally talking about Keffels again? He's got something about Keffels. Coming clean about Keffels. Senate sex tape scandal. Alex Jones unbanned by Elon and more. Man. I wish I had 750 people watching my show. That would be crazy. Unassumingly cool sock. You have an unassumingly cool name. Delicious. Okay, well, I did the Texas Attorney General thing. Man, do we really only have like 2 things left? I'm tired today. I think ableism is a fairly essential component to bigotry because most bigotries require a belief that the demographic in question are all, quote, broken and therefore unworthy people. You know, I do think that there's an argument to be made that most bigotries, you could probably whittle it back down to some kind of ableist belief, such as, women are weak and therefore they are inferior, or even the belief that women are stupid and therefore they are inferior is another aspect of ableism. The idea that Black people are just, inherently stronger and stupider and therefore they should be used for child labor. Like, that's an ableist belief at the root of the racism. So much racism, if you look at it, is like fundamentally comes back to these people are stupid or inferior in some other intrinsic manner. Like hatred against gay people because being gay is unnatural and it's defective. Like, that's a naturalism fallacy, as well as being like ableist in the sense that, normal humans are attracted to people in this way. Transphobia again, like normal humans don't have this delusion. It's this idea again, and the delusion thing, it's always this idea that you are mentally deficient. And so I believe that most bigotries, if you really examine them, fat phobia again, like, oh, you can't even walk up the stairs, ableist. Oh, you're so unhealthy. Okay, well, why are you moralizing health? Ableism. Yeah, they say trans people are mentally ill, and that's only a reason to hate trans people if you also hate the mentally ill. Yeah, like does your God condemn mentally ill people to hell? That sounds like a great thing for him to do. What's up, Trans Cat Dad? Welcome in. We're having a fun time. Ableism is at the root of capitalism as well, because if you are less productive, you are inferior. Right. That, like, the idea that if you need to contribute some kind of labor or you are not, like, valuable. Anyhow. These are the people who literally think that I get sexually aroused by wearing women's clothes. Listen, I get sexually aroused by wearing women's clothes. It's totally normal. It's called normal human sexuality. Oh my god, why are we talking about hippos? Hippos can move 40 miles an hour on land and eat almost anything in half with one bite. They're also kind of mean and moody. Hippos are horrifying. Like, hippos, you see these hippos in the zoos and they seem all chill and sweet. No. Nope. Fun fact, 90% of all women were proven to be autogynephilic. So much for Blanchard. I don't know what the actual statistic was. I'm not sure that that's what it was. But, the criteria being if you feel sexy when your partner treats you like a woman, like, oh, wow. Turns out most women like that. Okay, we have Gaza left today, and we have more police doing fascist stuff. Lux, have you read The Terrible We? It's like an intersection analysis that argues we ought to include rather than disavow emotional and cognitive issues when we advocate for trans liberation. I haven't read that, but I completely like grok the idea, and I basically agree with it. Like, I mean, yeah, you don't want to contribute to stigma if possible. You know, like when people tell me I'm mentally ill, I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't really have anything to do with me being trans. Like, me having PTSD is kind of a separate problem. So, like, what's wrong with, like, they're always like, go to therapy. And I'm like, I've been in therapy. I'm still trans. Like, you know, so it's important not to distance yourself from it in the way that makes it look like, oh yeah, I agree with you that being trans is bad, or that being mentally ill is bad, I should say, in this context. Hippo skulls are scary. I like hippo skulls for a fun example of, you know, how inaccurate our model of what animals look like based on their bones can be. Like if you took the bones of a hippo and you gave it to someone who had never seen one and you told them to try to reconstruct what this animal would look like, it would probably be much more terrifying than what hippos actually look like, because their skulls are scary. Charles Moser, autogynephilia in women, it was 93%, but only 29% participants. True. Okay, fair enough. Yes, people with mental illness are our comrades. Being sick does not make a person's identity less valid, whether they are cis or trans. Yeah, because that's the thing, is the implication that because you're mentally ill, you don't actually know your own mind and you can't be allowed to access transition. And of course, it's stupid, you know. Oh, you know, you are telling me I need to resolve my eating disorder before I can transition. Well, the only reason I have an eating disorder is because it's the only way for me to exert any control over my curves. Um, like, oh, you're telling me I need to have my depression resolved. Well, I'm depressed because I can't look at myself in the mirror. Like, I'm like upset. So it is putting these barriers in place, implying that, yeah, people don't have the right to autonomy until even more additional gatekeepers sign off. You have to have a multidisciplinary team of someone who is you have to have your eating disorder resolved. Like, how are you going to resolve the eating disorder if the treatment for the eating disorder is ostensibly going to involve making you eat more or less, whatever the case may be? But if you're starving yourself because you don't want to have visible breasts, and then you start to gain weight and recover, then your body is just going to look more female and you're going to get worse and spiral out again, because the problem isn't that you have an eating disorder. Like, the problem is that you're trans. I had to not be depressed and anxious before I could start HRT. It was great. I actually just pretended that I was okay by the end. Right. You're just creating more incentive for people to lie to you. Like, I don't want an official autism diagnosis, even though I'm pretty sure I'm autistic, because I have zero interest in there ever being a question of, do I actually deserve hormones? Or, you know, if I had a kid and there was like custody issues, like, I don't want someone to be able to declare me an unfit parent because I'm autistic, you know, and those are real dangers that autistic people have to deal with. So it is actually it's beneficial to me to avoid diagnosis for that issue in order to avoid having my other types of rights and access curtailed. Because I guess, like, autistic people, it doesn't matter how clearly self-aware and intelligent they are. Apparently, just as a blanket rule, we do not deserve access. How would that make sense with autism discounting trans? Trans and autism are heavily linked. Corpse Candy, you've landed right on it. They want to associate, like, if you're autistic, then, oh, we need to have extra gatekeeping. Oh, you can't really know that you're trans. And if most trans people are autistic, or if there's a high correlation, then that's the best thing for them to target if they want there to be fewer trans people. That's exactly, they're gonna go, well, you can't transition, sorry, and then that's gonna be most of the autistic people, because apparently a lot of us are, like, most trans people are autistic, or some, like, really, really high correlation. Does estrogen make you more depressed if AFAB? That's how I felt when on birth control. Birth control has all kinds of negative effects on health, even for cis women. I am on estrogen birth control again, and it has negatively impacted my libido, and, like, it's prevented me from having my menses, which is good, but I'm kind of wondering, like, I would really like to not be on birth control. I'm kind of fucking over it. But I'm gonna have to be for the foreseeable future. Like, what I really wish that I could do is be not on birth control and ask my doctor if he would put me on, like, a low-dose estrogen blocker to hopefully just, like, not have periods, but also not be dealing with, like, the tiredness and it's really hard for me to lose fat and, like, put on muscle when I would like to be doing those things. I guess I shouldn't be questioning the stupidity of transphobes. Corpse Candy, it's not the stupidity of transphobes. This is a thing that people miss out on, They want to prevent autistic people from being able to transition because they know there is a high correlation between transness and autism. Their goal is for there to be less trans people. So it's not them being stupid, it's them making a calculated genocidal decision. It's not stupid, it's not hypocritical, it makes perfect sense because they want to eliminate trans people. Yeah, transphobes are smart, they're just evil. Would they consider you to be AGP? Well, I mean, yeah, kind of. Like, but I'm AFAB, so it doesn't, like, if anything, it would discount the idea that I'm transmasculine. Oh yeah, in Germany. I'm autoandrophilic. Yeah, I'm not autoandrophilic, interestingly enough. I feel like the ones who are making these talking points are the smart ones and the evil ones, but your average transphobe is a fucking moron. I can't disagree with you on that. Even though it's ableist to say it. I think your average transphobe just doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they're very easily duped people. And of course, yeah, the uninformed people are going along with these talking points because they trust these figures of authority, and they don't think that these people are going to be lying to them and coming up with these lies for the calculated purpose of disrupting and overturning our democracy. It's a tough time. Hit the like button if you're enjoying hanging out on this show. I'm going to just say, like, there was another thing in there that I need to clip out for the stream. For the show. For the YouTube. So these are the two stories that we have left. One, we're going to talk about Gaza, the damage that has been done to the city, and why it's hard to obtain footage of that. I literally forgot to hit the like button. How dare you? Well, thank you for correcting your mistake. I appreciate it. Are we going to hit 69 likes today? I don't know. Maybe. And then our other thing, besides Gaza, is... let me just make sure I don't have anything else over here. You know where there's these book bannings happening? Well, apparently police have decided that it's their job to go into classrooms to search for potentially banned books in a way that is genuinely reminiscent of a democracy that we live in a democracy, you guys. We live in a democracy, and voting for Joe Biden is going to protect our democracy that we currently live in. They literally bombed Palestine on Christmas because they knew no one would be watching the news. I knew that some horrendous shit was going to happen on Christmas in Palestine. I don't know what specifically happened, you know, but I expected that the bombings were going to happen on Christmas Eve and Christmas and Boxing Day. There was not going to be a pause. There was never going to be a pause. Okay, I'm looking for other stuff. Okay. More autocorrect. 10 more. Ooh, we need 8 more likes to get to 69 today. They also say that the trans flag is associated with groomers and pedophiles. Dude, I was cussing somebody out in my YouTube comments the other day who they were like, I posted a video that was like, you know, I think I think there's a problem with the idea of parents' rights. And I'm like, I think you have an obligation to your children. I don't think that you have like rights over them. I don't think that that makes sense as a way to put that. In that video, I said nothing about trans people. I did not say anything about trans people specifically. I was talking like, you know, if you are the guardian of a child, then it's your job to protect them and to safeguard their rights. Like, that's your responsibility. I didn't say shit about being trans. And yet there are people in the comments saying stuff about groomers and like, oh, it's so weird that you want to have access to kids to talk about like sex. And I'm like, okay, so I didn't even say anything about transness or anything. You're just assuming I'm a pedophile because of how I look. Basically, like, I'm talking about the idea that children deserve protection and rights that parents cannot always give them. And just like, because I look the way that I look, you're assuming that I'm trying to do drag performances in front of children. Like, I didn't say shit about that. And yeah, I think it's totally an acceptable response if someone tries to call you a groomer and a pedophile to start cussing them out. Because like, do that to somebody's face. Like Mersh, I'm ready for Mersh to sound off on this one. Like, call someone a pedophile to their face and see how that shit goes down. If I had the money, I'd be suing people who just randomly call trans people pedos because that's actual slander. Right, do I need to have a lawyer on deck to be able to go after people for doing this shit? I guess I'd have to just, I'd be like, hey, lawyer guy, will you work for me and under the assumption that when I sue this person, you will get part of the money for it, you know? That's the kind of, you know, I can't afford to pay you up front, but if this settlement goes the way that I want it to. It's like you said about the lady who interrupted Joe Biden to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. They disregard us before even hearing us out. Yeah, it's really fun, though. I think there are folks who maybe don't clock that I'm trans, because the kind of people who comment on my face rings, my lip rings, and my haircut, I think those are the type of people who would criticize me for being trans if they knew that I was trans. But they, I guess, are like, there are some people who don't pick up on that. And yeah, so those are the kind of comments that I'm getting on. I've been posting a lot more YouTube shorts. They're breaking out into a mainstream audience. And there are just there's a lot of, yeah, like, negative commentary about my appearance, negative commentary about being trans. And like, there are some people who are grappling with the ideas, which is nice. There was someone recently, I think that the end of that whole parents' rights short, I was like, but what do I know? And someone commented on it recently. They were like, hold on, what did they say? I'm trying to find it. Hold on. I'm trying to find it. Someone, I can't find the comment, but someone was like, they said, you know a lot, that don't make it right. I'm like, that's actually like a kind of like the least shitty way to tell me that I'm wrong. I was like, but what do I know? And they're like, you know a lot, but that don't make it right. I'm like, okay, well, you gave me credit for knowing stuff, so I'll take it. Oh boy. I'm listening, Lux. I've just been world building since Friday night, and I'm enjoying writing again. Ooh, are you writing a book, a story, or are you writing a D&D campaign? That sounds fun. I love world building. It's a fascinating topic for me. TERFs are now turning on gender nonconforming people. Of course they are. Of course they are. I had someone on Facebook screenshot my profile picture and type "I'm a pedophile" on top of it, and they started spamming it on all of my posts. Yeah, I feel like, you know, that should be legally actionable. Mama Mephistopheles says calling someone a pedo is a threat. It's saying, I want you to be treated the way we treat people who commit unfathomable crimes. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's such a major accusation to level against someone that I don't know. Like, I genuinely think that it's basically like fighting words. Like, I do think that there should be some situations where it's understood that if you go to this level verbally, then there is going to be an expectation of retaliation, whether it's physical right in the moment or like a legal mechanism. Because at this time, this is a civil matter. If someone calls you a pedophile, you could say that it's slander, you could say that it's libel or defamation, but those are all civil things. The person is going to be ordered to pay you money. I think so long as we have a government that is doing things the way that it does, I do kind of think that you should be able to be like arrested for incitement. Because like, I think, yeah, I think calling someone a pedophile is essentially the same as inciting violence against them. It has the potential to damage their career. Like, you know, Doe completely quit streaming after being majorly pedo-jacketed. Like, yeah, when I say it's legally actionable, like, yeah, I meant like there should be punitive charges associated with it that are like, why is it that a person, you know, if a person commits assault, the state might still charge them for assault because they broke the law, even if the person they assaulted doesn't want to press charges. Like, sometimes that will still happen, you know? If someone commits a slander against you or does a libel against you, you have to go pay a lawyer to begin the legal mechanism to kick in. You know, the legal mechanism doesn't kick in unless you buy a lawyer, basically. And it's like the difference between stealing food from your job versus your boss stealing your money from your paycheck by misappropriating your paycheck. You know, you have to sue. You have to kick in the legal mechanism. Whereas, like, if you steal, you're going to get arrested immediately, and it's going to be immediately charged with a crime. Whereas you have to collect a bunch of evidence yourself to be able to prove that this company was stealing from you. And, like, you have to force the legal mechanism to kick in because it almost, like, doesn't want to. Yeah. But anyway, later I'll say, have a good night. I know, I try to stream earlier on Wednesdays. I'm not going to stream in the middle of the day, obviously, but, you know, it's 12:30 in Britannia. It's 12:30. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so long as we live in a society where there are criminal charges, I think that you should be able to be criminally charged for something like spuriously calling someone a pedophile. You can file an injunction against them to make them stop writing or speaking the libel. If they violate that injunction, then that could have a legal, like, civil and criminal consequence. However, it depends on the state. Fair. Of course, yeah, it depends on your jurisdiction. You could go harassment instead. Isn't that criminal? Yeah, it's just a question of, can you prove it? Of course, I'm not a lawyer. Like, I'm not a professional expert at this. You would have to talk to a lawyer and go, hey, if this person is calling me a pedophile, then what can I do against them? Like, if I wanted to pursue this, what would I pursue? And I think most lawyers, because the job of the lawyer is to get you to succeed to some degree, right? So if you were to go, okay, I'm going to call this harassment, that probably has a different standard. It probably has a higher standard of proof than slander or libel. I'm guessing slander or libel are going to be easier to prove in court. So the lawyer is probably going to tell you, we don't really want to do the harassment route. Cyberstalking and federal hate crimes. I'm really curious if calling a gay or trans person a pedophile would be, if they aren't calling you other anti-gay or anti-trans slurs, is the pedophilia accusation by itself enough to call that a hate crime? I'm not sure. It's a tricky situation, though. A good example of this particular imbalance is that trans people are called pedos every day with no consequence, while J.K. Rowling sues every British person who calls her a bigot for saying all trans people are rapists. I mean, yeah, it's the jurisdiction problem again, that in the UK they don't have free speech laws in the same way. And like, hypothetically, a trans person, if J.K. Rowling slandered them, should be able to use that same mechanism, but it's, again, about having access to money. If you receive threats for being falsely accused, then that would change the situation. I guess, sure, yeah. Like, I do think that spuriously calling someone a pedophile or a rapist or a murderer, like, I don't know. There should be some kind of check on that or scrutiny, like, I'm not sure. Like, spuriously accusing someone of having committed a crime. It's like if I just started calling people arsonists, you know, and like, that's gonna obviously damage their reputation. Comes under hate crimes and harassment, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna give you all to Hassan for a minute because I need to pee so bad. So I'm gonna find some Hassan for you. And I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Oh, we're doing Joe Rogan? Okay. Yes, like all Antifa members are arsonists. Exactly. All Antifa are arsonists. Okay, I'm gonna drink more water. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. We've got 2 more topics to talk about today, and we're going to do that. We will do that soon, okay? Hit the like button if you haven't yet. We're trying to get to 69. Later, Drew Tanuki. Glad you were here. Have a good dinner. Okay. I'll see
Speaking
you
of
in a
people
minute.
who are confident and sometimes confidently incorrect, Joseph Robinette Rogan. Folks, it's been a long time since I watched a Joe Rogan video on this broadcast. I feel like he's fallen off a little bit. Like, he's so hyper invested in COVID stuff. He rarely ever has like cool people on. He did have Stavi Baby on recently. And we're just going to hit the Joe Rogan thing raw. No cute girl in the studio, none of that. Just hitting it raw. Just you and me, baby. You on the other side of that screen, whether you're on a laptop, on your phone as you're delivering Amazon packages across the neighborhood, and just me. We're watching this. Joe Rogan apparently had a little flub and was fact-checked again in real time by Mr. Jamie.
Well, you know, there's people that voted for Biden that are doing it now. They're like, what did I do?
Right.
Like, what did I choose? Like, how is this guy?
Yeah, you just can't listen to an interview or he's saying some of the...
Bro, this dude has literally a video game character from 2007 haircut. I don't know if it's the low pixelation. I don't know what's going on. This is unironically Max Payne 1. My dude's got the Max Payne 1 haircut. What the... How does it stay like that? I feel like his hair is more powerful than the headphones. Like, you know how people go, haha, you have a head dent, right? Like, oh, you took your headset off and you're like, oh, your hair and you're in the top of your dome, it's got a dent. It's like, no, this dude literally breaks the headset with his hair. I don't know how he did it, but congratulations.
Says it just makes no sense at all. It's like you can't listen to those interviews and feel like you made a good decision. I don't know how you could.
Did you hear what he said like yesterday or a couple days ago? He's talking about the Revolutionary War. He's like, one of the reasons why we lost the Revolutionary War, one of the problems with the Revolutionary War was they didn't have enough airports.
This is an interesting start. to the conversation because there are a tremendous number of Biden flubs and gaffes and goofs that you could point to because my man is a gaffe machine. My man was a gaffe machine even when he was all there, right? Great retail politician across the board. There's never been a moment in Joe Brandon's career where he hasn't like said some silly. And also a serial liar and plagiarizer. That's kind of his thing. That's always been his shtick. If you track Joe Biden's career, you would recognize that he's always popped off with like plagiarism and also embellishing his past in a way that is not dissimilar to George Santos in many ways. But recently, of course, he has, you know, he doesn't have the mental acuity that he used to have. He doesn't have the mental fortitude. He's not all there, right? In the way that you, as long as, you know, when you get older, in the way that you see your grandparents kind of start to not have the same light behind the eyes. So there's plenty of moments that you can point to with respect to Mr. Robinette. Joseph Robinette Rogan posted something weird. So let's take a look at what happens here.
Have you seen that?
I saw that. It's like,
Have you seen
what
that?
the?
Like, pull him.
It's
Imagine
crazy.
If you had any other job and you were talking like that,
Yeah.
they would go, "Hey, you're done."
A few moments later.
The same stable genius that said the biggest problem we had in the Revolutionary War is we didn't have enough airports. Whoa.
Yeah, that's it.
Whoa.
What?
Just for the record,
Is that fake?
it's not fake, but he was referencing Trump saying that. Here's what Trump saying it in 2019.
Oh.
Donald Trump said something about that, and he didn't say G.
Okay, so here's one thing that I find to be a massive mistake for the Biden campaign, talking about Trump's mental fortitude. Now, I know there's a lot of Democratic Party writers in the chat who will unconditionally support the Democratic Party no matter what, and they will say things like, Joe Biden is actually all there. This is a moment where Joe Rogan f***ed up. But I have a different perspective on this, but I do love Joe Rogan f***ing up like this and having Jamie live fact check.
Jesus, he said a stable genius, and that's where the transcription.
Let me hear what it says. What did he say?
In June of 1775, the Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What? Yo! Oh, the Revolutionary Army.
So he up.
Yeah, he did. But I feel like
Took over
that's
the airport.
you can tell too. It sounds like a little different. He's like, you can tell he like messed up his words.
Okay, I'm back. Hello. I always think I'm taking forever and then I get back and it's always been less than 5 minutes. Like, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Did Trump show up on your screen while I was gone? I'm so sorry. The only good thing Joe ever did was take down Carlos Mencia? What? Anyway, okay, so we don't have that much left to talk about today. Get rid of this. We don't need that. Got a couple people who just came in. Hello, welcome in. If you would like to, please consider hitting the like button. We have a couple more political topics that we have left tonight. Joe literally ended Carlos Mencia's career in front of a live crowd. Notorious joke thief. What? Was it the correspondence dinner? What about... I don't know what happened about Carlos Mencia. This is... I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh my god, we're so close to 69 likes. That's what I want, to get to 69 likes. Yeah, what are you talking about? Give me whatever it is that you're talking about with Joe Biden ending Carlos Mencia's career. I'm about to end this man's whole career. I want to get my headphones ready while you're doing that. Okay. Oh, Joe Rogan. I was like, what the fuck? Okay, Joe Rogan ended Carlos Mencia's whole career. Okay. Nope, that's wrong. I wanted to open over here. It's the wrong tab. No, no, no. Now I need my chat back. Okay, hello, chat. Welcome in. Oh, I can't watch this. That's almost certainly going to get caught on the content ID. Okay, I'll have to watch this whole saga myself later and hope that I remember to do that. Okay, it's still open. I've got it open. Carlos stole from Bill Cosby of all people. Lovely. Welcome in the YouTube chat. What's up? What's up? So close to 69 likes today, you guys. So close. It still shows 68 for me, so maybe it's above that for you, but so close. I feel like book burning or book banning is one of the quintessential, oh my god, that's a fascism happening kind of things in the Western American sort of zeitgeist. We think of, Fahrenheit 451, book burnings. We think of that famous picture from the Nazis where they're burning some books. That was books about queer and trans people, by the way. It's like, oh man, it's the most obvious sign for a liberal. Oh, tell a liberal that someone's destroying, banning, or burning books. They're going to be like, oh my God. It's what they do. So I guess for those people, this should be a little bit of a shakeup because new things are happening. Where there's books like being banned in places nowadays where they're like, okay, we can't talk about gender. We can't talk about transness. We can't talk about queer people. Just increasingly more books on that topic that are like, some of them I would understand. Okay, like Lolita by Nabokov, I completely understand why that's on a banned books list. Don't know if children need to be reading Nabokov, like Lolita in particular. But there's other books that are just sort of normalizing trans and queer people. And this is what folks don't get about the Don't Say Gay bills and stuff. They go, oh, well, why do you need to be educating kids about sexual preferences? It's like, because, when you're in elementary, middle school, they do touch on some stuff, like a little bit of racism. We want to discuss differences. Oh, we want to embrace differences, no matter what the color of your skin. Like, we're getting used to this refrain now of, no matter the color of your skin or who you love. Like, the phrase, no matter who you love, is like something that you cannot say in a school anymore in these places where these laws have passed. When we do education normalizing groups of people, this is making it so that you can't normalize those groups of people. It's not talking about the particular ins and outs of gay sex or sexual preferences, although those should be included for high schoolers. Lack of queer aware sex ed leads to a lot of dangerous behaviors and like gay kids just kind of having to figure it out. And it's not good. So, but just leaving that aside, the reason why the Don't Say Gay is deeply inappropriate, no matter, like, especially for especially young kids, is not just like, oh, we're doing sex education. No, it's about this family has two daddies. This family has two mommies. Isn't that lovely and normal? Like, you literally cannot acknowledge the existence of those people without being caught up in this. How does a teacher respond if, like, it's like, today we're drawing our families, draw your mommies and daddies and grandparents and everybody, your brothers and sisters, draw all of them on a piece of paper. If a kid has two mommies or two daddies, are they even allowed to post the picture? Like, is that to some degree like an endorsement, or the teacher literally just cannot speak or acknowledge that they have two moms in front of the other kids? Like, where is the line? It's unclear. And so because the rules aren't clear, it just effectively shuts out all conversation on the subject. And so when we're talking about enforcement, like, how do we enforce this? If we're banning books, if we are, limiting the free speech of teachers by saying you can't teach this, you can't talk about this, how do we actually grapple with that? What we've seen previously is usually the school will fire the teacher if the teacher is gay and they're talking about it or something. Like, they just fire the teacher to avoid liability. It's just the thing that the school is going to do. But some of this, I guess, is necessarily going to require police to be involved, such as this situation where a plainclothes police officer entered a classroom in order to hunt down an allegedly, like a banned book that was allegedly in the classroom. Yeah, we don't talk about Emily's parents. We don't talk about them. Okay, I was just trying to catch up on chat, make sure there was not anything interesting in there. I have a little bit of a headache. Yay! Okay. So I think the book in question is called Genderqueer. It's a memoir by Maya Kobabe. Right, a plainclothes officer from the kid's perspective and the teacher's perspective. Just some fucking guy comes in and starts searching the place. I don't know. I haven't read the details of the case yet. I'm looking into it now. Mom and her roommate are here to pick up Emily. Okay, where does this say where it was? And I think that this was in Massachusetts, which is quite strange. Where is this other thing? Okay, I'm just checking some stuff. Okay, I got this. I got this. Yeah, this was in Massachusetts at a middle school, which is, for anybody who's not from the US, that's like ages like roughly 11 or 12 to like 14, maybe at the oldest, like 13, 14. That's the age range. So like a bunch of 12-year-olds in Massachusetts, which is supposed to be a fairly liberal place. It's supposed to be a democratic place. The ACLU is going to take action on this, of course. Let's see. This happened at W.E.B. Du Bois Regional Middle School. So I guess the officer, he was plain clothed, but he was wearing a body cam. So the incident was recorded, and there have been even more questions have arisen after that, apparently. Of course, the ACLU has requested the body cam footage. Okay, so here's what happened. There was an anonymous complaint which led Great Barrington Police to open a probe about whether certain parts of the book Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe could be considered obscene material or pornographic. So police then notified the Berkshire District Attorney's Office as per the department's policy. They notified school and district administrators that they were coming to the classroom, and the officer was escorted there by the principal. The teacher, who kept the book in her resource library, was surprised to see the officer. The officer announced he was turning on his body camera and then looked for the book and did not find it. So in Massachusetts, they have rules against obscene material and pornography being in schools. And something about this memoir, Genderqueer, is allegedly falling under that purview. Like, that's what they're alleging. So a plainclothes police officer is then escorted to the classroom by the principal, and then he searches the classroom and does not find the book. Like, what? Sir, what is the point? What are you doing? Like, is that usually the order of operations here? Is there usually like a police officer who shows up? Is that the kind of crime that it is? Or is this the kind of thing where usually, you know, you might have a parent like sues the school or something? Like, what, are you going to arrest the teacher? Was that the goal? Was that the goal of this? To arrest the teacher for having a book called Genderqueer? Of course, we would all like to see the recording. We would all like to see it. I don't think it's going to catch him like entering the classroom, but it's going to catch him like searching. Where did he search? Did he look in all the kids' backpacks? Like, it's softcore terrorism. It's a little bit of, yeah, it's like weaponizing a completely unrelated mechanism. Like something that's not supposed to have anything to do with trans people specifically. It's like, okay, just generally obscenity. Like, I don't know. I've never read the book Genderqueer. I don't know if there's something horrible in it. And also, like, I do think that there is a conversation to be had about depictions of intimacy. And, like, there's a line, I guess, somewhere between this isn't a medical textbook and we're teaching you the mechanics of, like, how human reproduction works, which obviously, like, involves putting things in things, versus, like, this is intended to elicit arousal, you know? Like, I feel like there's a line somewhere in there, and it's just up to the discretion of judges now to decide this. Like, I'm you know, they say it's up to parents and stuff, but then they restrict the material from the schools. So it's like, okay, now I have to educate my children about these things because the school refuses to do it. Like, it's also something that gives them an excuse to search anyone and everyone they decide to on a whim on the chance of banned books. Basically, yeah, maybe someone had it in for the teacher. Maybe the teacher is gay. And so some parent is maybe trying to retaliate. Genderqueer has no serious SA or illicit arousal. It has a very few tame PG-13 depictions of sex scenes. Right. So, you know, unpopular opinion, probably. I don't think that, you know, teenagers should be shielded from all depictions of intimacy. Like, I think it's okay for teenagers to be, like, reading and writing fan fiction, for example. It's not like they suddenly become sexual beings the day they turn 18, and denying the fact that they are horny little bastards is only going to cause them to hide things from you. It's only going to cause them to do things in an unsafe manner. You know, you have to, on some level, accept that teenagers are horny and, like, provide them with a healthy outlet for that so that they don't go out and have unprotected sex and, like, get sexually assaulted or commit a sexual assault because they don't understand consent. Like, you don't want them to be vulnerable. And so it's, like, uncomfortable. Nobody wants to acknowledge that teenagers are horny because it's uncomfortable. We think of them as children, and, like, yes, in retrospect, I'm like, I can't believe I lost my virginity when I was 14. That's crazy. But, like, when I was 14, that's what I wanted to do. So there's, like, you have to work with what you have and not pretend like you live in a fantasy world where you can shield children. Like, if you shield children from the idea of sex completely, if you somehow manage to do that, they are still going to be horny, and they will try to have sex anyway because they don't need to be taught how to do it in order to do things that can result in pregnancy or STIs or get, like, you know. Yeah, lack of sex education results in higher rates of, like, child abuse because then the kids can't talk about what's happening to them. It results in teen pregnancies, higher rates of, teen pregnancy and STIs. It's just, there's nothing about it that is actually results-based a good idea. And I think, frankly, some of that does include education about the emotional aspects of sex. Like being able to read stories that can depict making out or other kinds of intimacy in a way that's, like, part of a narrative about, like, a teenager having to learn to make better choices, you know? Like, that's not a bad thing. Yeah. And as always, it's fun to bring up during this discussion that child marriage laws tend to be pretty permissive in the states that also only have abstinence-only education. I haven't really looked into that specifically, that axis, but it would be super true. Like, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think that that's physically possible, Mama. I don't think that that's physically possible. And also, I hate the thing that I'm now having to think about, having read the words that you wrote. Through the puritanical eyes of Christian conservatives, they see the words gender, queer, and teen at the same time, and they go, "Ree!" That's true. They do freak out pretty hard about it. They were trying to, but it was too painful. Yeah. I don't want to think about it. Let's see if there's anything else in this article that we need to talk about. The school committee has since apologized. You know, they were like, oh, we kind of didn't know what to do. This was an unprecedented police investigation. In hindsight, we should have approached the moment differently. The committee is apparently, it's going to work to collect feedback on how it could do better. It's going to host a community meeting. So the school district is like, okay, well, how should we handle this in the future? But I don't know. Obviously, there's not going to be any punishment for the officer. And this is just established that they're going to be able to do this kind of thing in the future. Like, there's not going to be any change that's going to materially prevent this from happening in the future, I don't think. Maybe is the school district going to petition the local government to be like, hey, don't fucking send police officers into our schools unless we call you. Like, we'll call you if we need you. Apparently, the governor expressed disapproval of the incident and of book banning in general. Okay, well, there's that. So yeah, this article includes a little blurb about genderqueer. It's a coming-of-age memoir about reckoning with confusion about gender. It does contain sexually explicit illustrations and language. It is this that many in the queer community say they believe is the reason for the censorship, not so-called obscenity concerns. In Massachusetts, the test for obscenity is if the material is of interest sexually, depicts or describes sexual conduct, quote, in a way that is patently offensive to an average citizen of this county and, quote, has no serious value of a literary, artistic, political, or scientific kind, according to the state. So, yeah, they're just arguing that it's obscene, probably because, oh, in a way that is patently offensive to an average citizen of this county. Well, all you need is an average of homophobic citizens, and then this book is illegal under obscenity. These are so, I really don't like this whole, if your average sensible person thinks that this is offensive, then it's offensive. Like, God damn it. For sexual minorities and gender minorities, it is just giving bigotry the power in that regard. Like, you know, it's not in every place across the country that a majority of people are like homophobic or transphobic, but there are places where that is the case. And in those places, it's like, okay, well, your existence is obscene. Yeah, it's cancel culture when we do it. Yeah. Yeah, Mama makes a good point. This book is the one in particular that has been being brought up a lot during these conversations, but the problem isn't that there's any one book that this is happening to. And, like, I wonder if it's, you know, getting caught up in an obfuscation to even try to entertain whether genderqueer specifically itself should be in schools or not. Because the problem is that they're going after, like, all of this queer material. So it's like almost like it's giving them validity in a way to say, oh, well, you know, let's have a conversation about what what depictions of intimacy or sexual conduct are appropriate for teenagers. And it's like, yeah, that is a valuable conversation to have with other reasonable people, but this isn't a reasonable conversation. These people are just trying to censor gay people out of schools. Yeah, and the this ACLU employee says, we're very troubled by this notion. They say anytime someone could call, they have an obligation. They say anytime someone could call, they have an obligation to go marching into places wearing a body cam and, you know, interrogating people. Yeah, that's the thing. This is intimidation. It's the idea that if you have a book that could be borderline obscene or whatever, if you have a book that could be borderline inappropriate based on queer content, then the threat of being arrested or even just being intimidated by the police, because, I mean, that's what they're doing. They're intimidating you into making you stop doing the thing that they don't like. Whether your specific book is legal or not, they're showing up to intimidate you. Yeah, they just want to exercise control. They just want to go, look, I can show up and harass you. I can show up and interrupt your day. I can show up and scare the children. These same people probably read their dad's Playboys as kids and see no issue with that. Again, because it's not about sexual content. It's about queer content. It doesn't matter the sexual content aspect. They will lie and say that they care about kids not seeing sexual content. But then, yeah, plenty of us were being exposed to straight sex scenes in TV. Did anyone else see... Ooh, which one was it? Evil Dead. Evil Dead? Did anybody see Evil Dead at a rough age? Because I believe in that movie, a woman is raped by a tree. And, like, I saw that when I was, I want to say 7 or 8. Like, and to be fair, my parents were just, like, not super responsible because it's already, like, why are you watching Evil Dead around a child? But plenty of us were exposed to weird sex shit when we were younger, or got into our dad's Playboys, or got on the internet and were seeking out porn, or we were writing our own fan fiction that was pornographic in nature. Like, it's not that these people care about not exposing children to sexual content. Again, a lot of these people also support parents having the right to sign off on their kid getting married at age 15. And then the kid doesn't have any right to get divorced. That's the other thing. You have the right to get married with parental consent in these states at the age of like 15 or 16, but you don't have the right to divorce until you turn 18. Was that Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2? I don't remember. I haven't seen them in a very long time. I don't remember. The thing that gets me is genderqueer is for young adults, not little kids. I mean, they're in a middle school. This is a school with like 12 and 13-year-old kids. And that is an age where you probably want to start like more like relationship and sex education, because that's the age. Like I said, I was 14 when I lost my virginity, and I was doing other sexual things before that. So, excuse me. Excuse me again. Let me read more of this. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so the state and federal constitutions on this issue protect the rights of students to receive information. I wonder if there's going to be yeah, are we going to be able to take legal action on that? I think that that might be the manner in which the ACLU gets involved here. If students have a right to receive information, then, you know, I guess we're going to have to do a competing rights conversation where it's like, oh, the rights of the parents to make educational decisions for their children versus the right of the student to receive information. You know, it's just going to become a question of, do students have the right to know about gay and trans people and learn about queer relationships? Or do parents have the right to revoke that knowledge from their children, you know? And yeah, so these bans could, quote, constitute unlawful discrimination, according to the ACLU. Conservative parents have a control kink. True. The letter says that the courts have, quote, recognized that the fact that some parents do not want their children to read certain books cannot justify depriving other students of their rights of access. So, you know, maybe a parent could say, I don't want my kid to read such and such book, but they can't restrict the rights of other kids to have access to that information. If we lived in a sane society, true. If we lived in a sane society, the rights of students to learn about the world should be superseding the rights of parents to force their kid to be exactly like them. Kids do not belong to their parents. They belong to the community. And you are just creating dysfunction for them if you deny them educational opportunities. Okay, let's see if there's anything else in here. The school's librarian points out that, this is not about forcing a book into students' hands. It's about the freedom to read, about providing voluntary access to a well-written, highly acclaimed resource in a safe place for a teenager who might want or need it. You know, again, it's not about necessarily, this book is not part of the curriculum. It's just a resource for kids who might need it. Apparently some of the high school students did a demonstration, but I don't want to post their picture. Yeah, so it could be that this gets escalated and they have to actually read the book and decide legally whether this is obscene or not. It's hard to prove something is obscene with the First Amendment being written the way that it is. So it sort of depends. Like, we're not sure what's going to happen next about this. Like, the main problem is that it's not okay for cops to just show up at schools and suddenly start searching a classroom for an allegedly banned book. Like, there are so many other things that I think should happen aside from that. I don't think that that should ever be on the table. Ah, my ear is itchy. Oh my God. Modern culture tries to shelter children much more than they did in the 1970s and 80s. Strange that the same people who grew up without restrictions are crazy about restricting not only their own children, but everyone else. Listen, poor people used to all, share a one-room house. Maybe the kids would be sleeping in the loft or something, but, you just might hear your parents having sex sometimes. Of course, if you're rich and you can afford a separate room or what have you, fine. Even if you are relatively rich, if you are, just rich enough to have a tiny castle, but not quite rich enough to have a castle with more than one room, there are structures like that where it's okay, this person is obviously of some petty importance. They live in, a stone structure with a kind of, defensive wall, but it's basically only one room. And maybe you would be fancy and have a wooden box built around your bed where you enter the wooden box and the doors kind of slide shut for a little bit of privacy. But yeah, so for throughout a lot of human history, it's just been like, yeah, sex is gonna happen, and you all like stay in the same room with each other. So how the fuck are you gonna prevent kids from knowing about it? But then again, just because something has been happening for a long time doesn't make it a good thing necessarily. I'm sure that kids were also being made to do a lot of labor in that time. And that's not something I'm going to say was a good thing just because we were doing it. Yeah, but I'm saying the book wasn't in a school where little kids could read it. It was in a middle school, allegedly. This is the same reason cops will take drug-sniffing dogs into schools instead of providing adequate education on recreational drugs. It's about intimidation. Conservatives don't know any way to get what they want without fear and force. It's so much easier to incentivize behavior with a carrot than with a stick. Like, people don't understand this. Like, the stick technically works, it's just not a very effective tool. Okay, are we just about wrapped up there? We've passed 69 likes. Nice! So thank you for that. You can still hit like if you haven't done so already. We have one more topic for the stream tonight, and that's going to be Gaza. So let me put this over here. What am I doing? I don't need that anymore. And I will add also, before we move on from the end of this segment, this person says over on Twitter, oh my god, no. Not the right one. The joke is that the fascism is already being implemented in 1,000 small ways like this. Police raiding schools for banned books is pretty on the nose in a blue state, under a blue president, and I believe a blue governor. There's no movie script takeover moment, just a very slow creep over time. Yeah, like, I don't want to harp on it right at the end of this segment, because I feel like we've talked about it plenty recently, but, like, the fascism that y'all are so concerned about under Trump is being constructed under Biden, and I'm not saying that that means that, we should not vote for Biden or whatever, but it does mean that we need to vote for Biden and then actively work against him in every possible way if he gets elected. Like, honestly, I wish that there was any other option than voting for him, but it is true that the fascism happens slower under a Democratic president, but there are still horrendous, disgusting, destructive, fascist things happening under our allegedly democratic government. In blue states, an individual police officer deciding that he was going to go intimidate probably someone who he assumed to be a queer teacher based on the fact that they have the book. Like, who told you to do that, sir? Did some boss man actually tell him to do it, or did this guy just decide to do that? But yeah, the election is going to be a fun time. And I think we need to be considering what our options are under the assumption that whether it be this election or the next election, a Republican is going to win again, and they will try to dismantle the democracy. Like, you can try to hold it off this election, the next election, but we're there. And even if we weren't there, there is still the impending climate collapse that the Democrats are not doing anything about. So maybe shift your focus onto, like, what can you do locally to make sure that people in your community are taken care of? Establish, like, mutual aid, provide food for people, talk about how you can allocate resources within the community. Go to local politicians maybe and see if you can work with them. Focus on creating sustainable local resources like community gardens and improving water catchment systems in your area. Like, because all the voting in the world is not going to stop the climate collapse at this point, I don't think. So, yeah. Let's just refocus on this. I keep hoping for a different Dem candidate, but I'm resigned. I know, it's so sad. I really think that they should reconsider running him, but they're not going to. They're just going to keep being stupid. So whatever. Whatever. Yeah, talk to your neighbors and build mutual aid. I wonder if there's a community garden near me. I wonder if I could just do, like, even though I'm not going to be staying in this part of the country for very long, I could do one growing season in a community garden. I don't know, that could be fun. Make some friends and then move away. Sounds like a great idea. Okay, so we just did... police in the classroom. Success. Another segment. Down. At the moment, it's not about Dems or reps. Conservatism is the problem, while capitalism is running rampant. Yeah, so conservatism, I agree, is like the ideology that is part of the problem, I guess you could say that. Or it's like that's the ideology that they're shrouding themselves in order to just do the corporate interests thing. And it's like, are they really conservative? Or are they just interested in keeping all of the money? I don't really think that they hold any real values, like any real conservative values. But yeah, I do think that it's tricky when we try to vote for Democrats who run as progressives. Like sometimes recently we had that one lady in South Carolina who ran as a Democrat in a new district, and then she flipped to a Republican after she got elected. And it's like, what the fuck? And then we also have, like, oh God, what is his name? What is his name? There was a guy, Fetterman, who ran and called himself a progressive, and now he's like, well, I'm not a progressive. I'm just a normal Democrat. And it's like, dude, we keep trying to vote in people who are Democrats or who are leftist or progressive, and they are like lying actively, I guess, in order to get their jobs, or like being immediately bought out by corporate interests or something. Like, what the fuck is happening? Before he passed away, my uncle was focused on planting as many trees as he could to try to help with ground temps and water retention in the soil in his neighborhood. Yeah, I'm considering, like, I don't think I have the correct environs for a tree, even if it was a tree that I would not be planting in the ground for several years anyway. John Fetterman is Shrek's evil twin. True. Oh gosh, I'm gonna drink some water. Hail hydrate, folks. Ooh. Oh yeah, Captain America's my favorite. I did, yeah, we watched Captain America before Christmas because I remember talking about this on stream last time. Steve Rogers is my favorite. Okay, so last story of the night is a Gaza. I have hundreds of trees. That's very exciting. Are most of your trees deciduous or like pine? Excuse me. Like, Appalachia. If you live in the Appalachian Mountains, are they mostly like pine trees? On the East Coast has a little different climate, and so planting a bunch of trees was what he felt that he was capable of doing. Yeah. Plant some maple trees for the syrup. Ooh, thank you so much. I have my Google Sheet open here where I put, like, what kind of trees and plants I should have. And I'm going to put that one on the list. Maple trees. Had not thought about that. Because those are the kind of things, okay, like if you're planning ahead and you're trying to like get, some food growing on your land, you don't just want to think of the staples. Obviously, you want to grow potatoes. Like fucking obviously, you want to grow potatoes. But you also have to have an herb garden. You have to have an herb garden. You have to have flavorsome things. You have to have like honey or fruit or like, and you should have a variety of things so that you don't end up burned out. There will be seasons where you're just producing a lot of one thing, like producing a lot of squash. So you're going to be eating a lot of squash during that time unless you're using some preservation methods, which you can do. But yeah, so you don't want to get burned out eating the same thing every day, or you don't want to get burned out eating stuff that tastes bad or that, lacks some kind of rounded flavor profile. So yeah, definitely. You want stuff like maple. You want stuff like sugar or honey. Some plants and trees carrying nuts could be nice too. Yeah, I think I have like nuts on this list somewhere. I don't know. It's like chestnuts or something along those lines. Nut trees. I thought I had that somewhere else on my list, but I'm not gonna try to look for it. I'll just write it twice. Nuts of a kind. I do have that on here. Okay. I want squash now. Shit's amazing. Spaghetti squash with garlic, pepper, olive oil. I have some sweet potatoes. Those are not squash. But I need to eat them. Anyway, squash is pretty good. It's not the cheapest thing. Even when it's in season, it's not the cheapest thing. Excuse me, I burp. Both deciduous and evergreen. Lots of white pines, cedars. Oh, cedars are the fucking bane of my existence right now. Thanks to cedar trees, I have allergy symptoms in the winter too. But also gum, birch, ash, oak, hickory, walnut, locust, etc. I have peach trees as well. Millions of peaches. Peaches for me. There were neighbors who were cooperating on growing fruit trees so that they could cross-pollinate too. That's lovely. I also have hundreds of trees, mostly evergreen species, which include conifers and laurels. Then we have deciduous trees in the creek. Lots of berry brambles and bushes around wild along with the mushrooms. Ooh, that sounds lovely. Oh gosh, okay. Later, Althea. Yeah. Go to sleep. Okay, yeah, we have one last thing. Let me open up this. Lots of blackberries. Like, I think technically I could get a blackberry or a raspberry bush now and keep it trimmed and contained in one pot. It might be a pretty big pot, but I think I could do that. And then, like, in a couple years, plant it in the ground. But, I don't really want to add to my plant repertoire right now. I have a lot of plants already. And not very much space for them, TBH. Huckleberries? I've not had huckleberries before. Blackberries are pests where I live. Well, but a thorny blackberry you could put under your windows and it's like an additional security measure. Or you could use it as a natural fencing if you kept it really together. I was watching a video yesterday about how you can make living fence with willow. Like, you can take like these, like 1/2 inch wide willow sticks and like plant them in a lattice and they'll just grow. And like you can like trim them annually, and all the stuff that you trim off is apparently really good for like basket weaving, and the greenery is good to feed to your animals if you want. It helps reduce parasites. It's very good stuff. I will go gorilla planting in 2024. Huckleberries are superior to blueberries. Well, blueberries only suck in America because of our mass-produced food. They're always so big and watery. Blueberries are supposed to be like small and tart. I have a very large rose bush that I use for security around several windows at my house. Yeah, I'm thinking rose bushes or blackberry or maybe some combination thereof would be a really great, like, beautiful security measure. Willows are whips too. They are. You can also use them to reinforce an embankment. You know, like if you have water erosion happening in a place where you don't want it to be happening, you can plant some of the willow trees, like some of the willow sticks upright, and then the other ones you can weave through, and most of the ones that are upright will root, and then you have like a living embankment wall, which is pretty solid. I like learning things. I'm scrolling to find the stuff that I'm looking for. Okay. I found it. I found what I was looking for. I don't want the sound on. Okay, thank you. Pause. Cool. I just want to like chill for a minute before I talk about Gaza. It's like, it's really hard to talk about. But this is going to be our last segment of the day. There's a little park here close to me. Maybe I could plant something there at night. I think, like, my thing that I like the idea of is just spreading wildflower seeds. But, so that's good for the pollinators. But if you wanted to do something food-wise, you could, you know, if you eat fruit, you could scatter some of the fruit seeds. You could probably, like, if you, like, kind of gently squished some, like, raspberries so that you didn't crush the seeds, but you, like, squished up the pulp and everything, and then you, like, just threw that in places, I think that that would probably end up rooting down. If you want it to be like, yeah, they can grow food here. Keep weeping willows away from a well or a house. Yes, they have very troublesome root systems. Don't plant willows near your house. They have very troublesome root systems. But also if you have a natural fence, like let's say I build the lattice as tall as I want it to be, if I'm cutting it every year, which you might not cut it the first year. It might be just the second year. I'm not sure. I'd have to read over it again. But it's never going to get like giant and tree-like. And I think that includes the roots. If you're keeping the top trimmed and you're pulling off the little growths and stuff, like the tree is not going to get as big, which I would assume means that the roots are going to stay relatively controlled. But still, be mindful if you plant willow of where your plumbing is. Best to plant a willow next to a stream. Yeah, they do really well next to streams. Store-bought wildflowers have tons of invasive species here in America. Yeah, well, yeah, see, you would have to look online. I guess I didn't explicitly say that, but yes, you want to make sure you're not spreading invasive species. Apparently, it's a thing that people do at national parks. Folks will take those little packets of seeds and spread them along the paths at these parks, and it's like, dude, you're gonna fuck up our ecosystem here. Like, this plant that doesn't belong here is gonna take over everything. Lilacs smell amazing. I love lilacs. It's kind of like a tree, yeah? Lilacs are just a really big bush that's kind of tree-like if it gets big enough, yes? Sometimes I go buy young trees and plant them in the woods. I should start... Man. Planting trees is a whole thing. I'm thinking about, like, the plants that I don't want. Like, I don't want there to be plants that are going to cause a bunch of fucking allergies, but I'm going to have to plant trees to offset if I cut those trees down. Rangers charge them for that kind of nonsense as well. It's federal charges for disrupting the ecosystem. Well, of course, if you catch the person, but it's like, if the plants are already growing, then it's way, way, way too late. One day the kudzu will cover the earth, and we will all become kudzu. We planted a lilac at my dad's grave. Hell yeah. Again, after the stream, I'll have so much to play with in the Homestead channel. So much to post in the Homestead channel. Is habitat education content acceptable in the channel? I think so. Habitat education, probably. Gorgeous. Okay, God, I don't want to talk about Gaza. I feel like I need to because this is a particularly weird issue. It's a particularly weird thing. I have not done an update about Gaza in at least a few weeks now. It's now after Christmas. As I understand it, there were bombings on Christmas. I'm not really going to talk about any of the specific atrocities that have been happening, although they are numerous, to be completely clear. I wanted to focus on this one thing and kind of have a conversation surrounding it. So I saw this video, and I'm not going to play sound. So this is a video that is supposed to be showing the north of Gaza, and it's kind of scrungly and pixelated a bit, but basically, you know, you're seeing a bunch of what kind of looks like dirt roads, and then in between the dirt roads is like a bunch of destroyed buildings and rubble. Here we have like military trucks and bulldozers and stuff. And like that's just fading off into the distance there. This is what North Gaza looks like right now, apparently. Like, oh, there's some buildings still standing that they haven't bulldozed, but that was a good chunk of city that's just kind of gone now. And this led me to think and to wonder where, like, what does the satellite footage look like of, let's say, sometime earlier this year, like June or July, versus more recently. And that brought me to quite an interesting discovery I was not expecting to find. So apparently there are rules about high fidelity satellite imagery of Israel and Israel's territories. Like the US government imposes some kind of rules against there being certain high quality images, which is fascinating. And it's because, you know, they want to protect Israel from being accountable for their actions, of course. Can Google Earth show a before and after? Would I be able to see like photos from a month ago versus photos today? Because that's the question that I have, is what's the difference between how the West Bank and Gaza looked like a month ago, or sorry, not like several months ago now, versus how it looks now, you know? Are we seeing a tangible difference on the ground? Like, I'm curious. I have Google Earth open right now, and I'm not sure how detailed it will get. And like, yeah, cause it's like, okay, it's not really that valuable to me if it's just going to show generally what the area looks like today, or what the area looked like 3 months ago, and then not a current image of what it looks like today. Which is why I was Googling around for this. I was trying to find like, what are some pictures? Yeah, I think Google Earth would comply with US law. I think AP has before after slide pictures. I see a Guardian from October 27. BBC. So there are some images in BBC of the before and after. Okay, so this is kind of what I wanted, and I'm glad that it exists, but I did think it was weird and worth sharing that there are weird US government imposes rules that limit everyone's access to information about what's happening. But here's one example of an area. I think that, okay, so this is as though it were one image split in half before and after. So we can kind of do this. Yeah. So this is what it looked like before. we've got lots of trees growing. We've got, that looks like some greenhouses, lots of buildings where people are living. And that was of May 2023. And then as of 23rd November 2023. And, obviously it's like winter in November. So a lot of this is like less green, but it's also been actively bulldozed over a bunch. Like, look at the difference in this little area at the bottom, like down here. That's like where a bunch of military vehicles are right now. Just absolutely destroying what, frankly, I'm pretty sure is cropland. Like, they're growing, like beans or some other low-lying plant right there. Just absolutely destroyed it. Let me see. This is not satellite footage, I don't think, but it is showing, 14th October 2023, like the gradual... It's, there's already like smoke and stuff in this background. It's not like this is an unaffected area, and then it's just gradually getting more and more fucked up until here, this building is now basically gone. I'm betting you that was like a mosque or another building similar to that. Republicans did tell them to go ahead and level Gaza. I mean, yeah. Can I just say again how crazy it is that, like, what Vosh was banned from Twitch for all those years ago? Here's another one, before and after. This was a 5-star hotel, according to this article. Just gone. These areas, residential areas, just gone. And it's specifically residential areas, because it's looking like a lot of these other buildings are mostly intact, and these, I guess, are going to be businesses and stuff. What was Vosh banned for? He was banned for making a comment against Israel that was highly inflammatory and not repeatable. But not exactly incorrect. I'll tell you, Mama, I'll tell you after. I just can't repeat it. Like, I can't repeat it out loud. I'm seeing if there's any more pictures here. Here's another area, land cleared for military operations. This is damage to the south of Gaza City. Again, like just earlier this year, green. These are like chunks of land that are quite green, which means that this is areas where you're growing food. And it's just all gone. Like, this is how I've started to think about this situation, is that it kind of seems like Gaza is just kind of gone at this point. Like, the people have basically been entirely displaced. There basically isn't anywhere for a person to be living there. Here's another one. Al-Azhar University. Star of David in this area, which was formerly like a square of some kind. So yeah. I'm glad that we were able to obtain some satellite footage, despite the fact that satellite footage is, like, weirdly regulated in Israel. And of course, it's like, yeah, there's nothing we can do about this at all. And that's the thing, is it doesn't matter that we, the people, oppose it. It's just gonna keep happening. It doesn't matter who we vote for. It's gonna keep happening. Like, you kind of, at a certain point with this topic, have to just mentally disengage. Because, like, it's just such an overwhelming problem. And we genuinely don't have, like, I don't think we can do anything about this short of, like, if some people decided to seize the government and make it stop happening. And, like, even then, I don't think that would work. And that's if people were willing to go to an extreme like that, and I don't think most people are, and I think it's reasonable for most people to not be willing to do that. Ancient olive trees that have been cultural and agricultural mainstay in Palestine have been bombed, like specifically targeted and bulldozed. Yeah, the olive tree is, like, olive oil is very important to Palestinians. Their olives are very important to them. It's their main thing. They consider it like a holy plant. You know how the olive tree branch is like a symbol for peace? You ever think about this? I hadn't really thought about it in a while until quite recently, but like, it's so goofy that the olive trees are being destroyed when it's like, it's a holy symbol of peace, as I understand it, to like the Judeo-Christian Muslim religious people. Yeah. Don't know what we can do about this. So I'm kind of just taking less time to think about it because there's no point in me thinking about it. Yeah, the expression extending an olive branch. There has been some resistance happening in ports worldwide with regard to shipments of weapons to Israel. I did see that. I saw that a Native American tribe had gone ahead and blocked some shipping from happening. Like maybe they had even launched some of their own boats into the harbor and they were like, no, we're going to block you from leaving. People blocked an airport. So yeah, I guess in that regard, there's some direct action that you can do if you want to go and block, what is it, was it Boeing? Like these companies that make parts that end up going into these weapons and stuff, you can protest and physically block the shipment of those things by putting your body on the ground. So, we can't necessarily change the laws because our government seems, aggressively Zionist, and Biden himself called himself a Zionist. But what we can do is we can disrupt the industry. And in this day and age, when industry is such a hugely influential thing, then industry is the thing that you can disrupt. That's what your protest is good for, is for actually physically disrupting the production and procurement of weapons of war. And as usual, continue contacting your congresspeople, including bothering them in public. Oh boy. Good grief, y'all. Do we have any more commentary we should add on this? It's been a few weeks since I talked about it, and again, I've not been thinking about it very much in the in-between. I once asked my Fox News watching dad why the US is an ally to Israel militancy and not Gaza, and why I should support them. And I think he said something along the lines of, because we've always been BFFs. Yeah. The US government loves fascism, it turns out. Drink water, babes, says while beginning to have a dehydration headache. I don't have a headache. It started to happen a little bit. I think that what I'm dealing with is sinus pressure, because my ears are popping every time I swallow. Yum. Well, we did gain one new patron during this stream, so thank you to that person. And we are probably going to wrap up relatively soon. Because I need to eat dinner. Yeah, it's a toxic relationship between the US and Israel. It really is. Okay, hold on. I gotta make this in my stream notes. Israel satellites. We sing so we don't scream. We had a very productive stream today in terms of having lots of segments for me to edit later. Look at us. We're doing such a good job. Basically infinite money. Yeah, given enough time. True. Oh gosh. Okay, well, I think I'm ready to get the F out of here. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll be seeing you all on New Year's Eve, which will be the last time I see you until next year. So thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate you. And have a good end of your week. We'll see you next time. Okay? Be good. Be good. Or don't get caught.